Puck Bunny. Puck Bunny. A fake dating hockey romance. Arden Blackwell. Copyright 2026 Arden Blackwell. All rights reserved. No part of this book may be reproduced, distributed, or transmitted in any form or by any means without the prior written permission of the author, except for brief quotations in a book review. This is a work of fiction. Names, characters, places, and incidents are the product of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, events, or locales is entirely coincidental. First edition, 2026. For every story that started with a lie and ended with the only truth that mattered. Saknad. The ache of missing something before it's gone. A word with no English equivalent. Contents. Prologue. The caption that started everything. Chapter 1. Everything I've worked for. Chapter 2. The arrangement. Chapter 3. Terms and conditions. Chapter 4. Practice. Chapter 5. Background research. Chapter 6. Home ice disadvantage. Chapter 7. Off the record. Chapter 8. The deal goes public. Chapter 9. Renegotiating terms. Chapter 10. Road trip, Chicago. Chapter 11. The profile draft. Chapter 12. Jonah's truth. Chapter 13. Lars. Chapter 14. The almost. Chapter 15. Britta. Chapter 16. Damage control. Chapter 17. The second draft. Chapter 18. Real. Chapter 19. The piece I actually want to write. Chapter 20. Elsa. Chapter 21. The press conference. Chapter 22. After. Chapter 23. Everything I was too careful to say. Chapter 24. The narrative becomes real. Epilogue. 6 months later, what actually happened? Prologue. The caption that started everything. The photo has 14,000 likes. I know because I've refreshed the page 6 times in the last 4 minutes. Each time I do it, the number goes up. Not by 1 or 2. By hundreds. Like something is feeding it. I'm still sitting in the press box. The arena went dark 20 minutes ago. The ice crew finished their sweep. Even the security guard who walks this level 3 times a night has already come and gone, given me a look, and decided I wasn't his problem. The lights above me are the emergency kind. Low. Yellow. The kind that make everything look worse than it is. I keep telling myself the photo is fine. It is not fine. It's me and Michael Lindqvist in the corridor outside the home locker room. I'm laughing, actually laughing, mouth open, head tilted, and he has one hand on my elbow. His fingers are wrapped around my arm like he owns the space around me. We're close enough that his shoulder is almost touching mine. In real life, it lasted maybe 3 seconds. An equipment cart came barreling out of a side door and he grabbed me before it could clip my hip. I said something. He didn't answer. We both went back to what we were doing. In this photo, it looks like something else entirely. The caption on the Minnesota Frost fan page says, "Looks like at Rinkside Ava has a new beat smirking face #PuckBunny." I read it the first time and laughed. An actual laugh. Because it was absurd. Then the Rinkside Report's official account, my employer, the outlet that pays my rent, the place where I have spent 3 years of my life fighting for every serious assignment I have ever gotten, shared it. With a little hockey stick emoji and a heart. And the words, "Even our reporters can't stay objective around this team." I stopped laughing after that. I put my recorder in my bag. I put my notebook in my bag. I sat down in the front row of the press box and I stared at the empty ice below and I thought about my father. Not because I miss him. I don't. I thought about him because he's the reason I know exactly what "Puck Bunny" means when someone says it about a woman near a hockey team. I know what it implies. I know how fast it sticks. I know that it doesn't matter how many stories you've filed or how many press scrums you've stood at the front of, one photo like this and the whole thing rewrites itself. My career. My credibility. 3 years of work. All of it, folded into one caption. 14,000 likes and climbing. My phone buzzes. It's Cassie. Girl. I'm seeing this. Call me. I don't call her. It buzzes again. A news alert. Sports media outlet, the Rinkside Report, goes viral after sharing photo of their own beat reporter with Frost defenseman Michael Lindqvist. Comments are. I close the alert before I finish reading it. The thing about a story like this is that it doesn't need to be true. It just needs to look true. It needs a caption and a photo and a platform and 14 seconds of people deciding what they think before they move on to the next thing. The truth doesn't get that kind of speed. The truth takes longer and costs more and almost nobody waits for it. I know this. I've reported on it. I've written about image cycles and media narratives and how quickly a person's public identity can be overwritten by a single moment. I've been smart about it my whole career. And now I'm sitting in the dark in an empty arena because I laughed at the wrong moment, in the wrong corridor, near the wrong man. My phone rings. I don't recognize the number. I almost don't pick up. But I'm a journalist. I always pick up. Ava Sinclair, I say. My voice comes out steadier than I feel. Ms. Sinclair. A man's voice. Come. Business measured. My name is Marcus Hale. I'm the agent for Michael Lindqvist. I stand up. I don't know why I stand up. Okay. I'll be brief. I've seen the photo. Michael has seen the photo. A pause. We have a situation that I think we can solve together, but it requires a conversation. Outside the press box window, the rink sits empty and quiet. The ice is perfect. Nobody on it. Not yet. What kind of conversation? I ask. The kind, Marcus Hale says, where both parties walk away with exactly what they need. Are you free tomorrow morning? I look at my phone screen. 14,240 likes. Tell me where, I say. Chapter 1. Everything I've worked for. Ava's POV. The wall in my apartment tells the whole story. 3 years of it, taped up in rows from the window to the closet door. Game recaps. Investigative pieces. Long-form profiles. My byline in black ink, over and over, proof that I was here and I worked and it mattered. I put the first clipping up the night I got promoted from content assistant to staff reporter. I've added to it every week since. I looked at that wall this morning for a long time before I made coffee. Then I made 2 espressos instead of 1, drank them both standing at the kitchen counter, and opened my laptop to check the box scores before the sun came all the way up. Bruins won in overtime. Avalanche lost a third straight. The Frost beat Colorado 4-1 at home, and Michael Lindqvist had 2 blocked shots and an assist and absolutely 0 quotes in the post-game wrap because he never gives quotes in post-game wraps. I know his stats the way I know every player on that roster. That's my job. I cover the Minnesota Frost. I have covered them for 3 years, and in that time I have learned the difference between the players who perform for cameras and the ones who perform in spite of them. Lindqvist is the second kind. He plays like nobody is watching and he gives interviews like he's trying to make reporters quit. I thought that was annoying 6 months ago. I am now thinking about it differently. The Rinkside Report's offices are on the 4th floor of a building in downtown Minneapolis that also houses a dental practice and a mid-size accounting firm. Nobody walks past our door and thinks, journalism. That's always bothered Derek Voss more than it bothers me. He has a framed photo of himself with a Sports Illustrated editor on his office wall, right next to his Northwestern journalism degree. He references both things more than is strictly necessary. I got to the office at 8:15. Earlier than anyone except our data editor, Gene, who is always there when I arrive and still there when I leave, and I have never once seen him eat. Gene looked up when I walked in. Then he looked back at his screen. That was it. That was the entire interaction, and it was the best one I was going to have all morning. By 9 o'clock, 3 separate colleagues had walked past my desk and said some version of the same thing. Marcus from the video team, hey, saw the photo. Wild. Kelsey from social, oh my god, are you and Lindqvist actually? She stopped when she saw my face. Tom Riley, senior hockey writer, who has been at this outlet since before I was born and has never once asked me a question about hockey that wasn't a test. Careful with that one, kid. Those guys collect girls like trading cards. I smiled at all three of them. I said nothing to any of them. I pulled up my notes on the Frost's upcoming road schedule and I kept working, because that is what I do. I work. I keep my head down when keeping my head down is useful, and I come up swinging when it isn't, and I have learned over 3 years exactly which moments are which. This felt like a keep your head down moment. I was wrong. Tom Riley is the reason I learned to stand at the front of a press scrum. Not because he taught me. Because he didn't. My first month at the Rinkside Report, I was covering a Frost home game, minor assignment, nothing piece, just game notes and a few quotes. I got to the post-game scrum late. Crowded room. 8, 9 reporters in a loose semicircle. The Frost center Bryce Kellerman was standing in the middle answering questions. I had 2 I needed to ask. I raised my hand. Tom Riley talked over me both times. Not aggressively. He just started talking before I finished raising my arm, and because he was louder and he'd been there longer, Kellerman looked at him. I went home with no quotes. Derek Voss cut my game notes piece to 4 paragraphs. The next game, I got there 20 minutes early. I stood directly in front of the player. When the scrum started, I asked my question before anyone else could draw breath. Kellerman looked at me because I was the first voice he heard. I got my quotes. I filed the piece. I've stood at the front of every scrum since. It's not a technique. It's a policy. The men in that press box don't hate me. Most of them don't think about me at all, which is its own kind of problem. The ones who do think about me have decided I'm either a novelty or a threat, and they treat me accordingly. Tom Riley has decided I'm a novelty. Fine. I'll be a novelty with a better byline. My father would have found that funny. He used to say the best way to shut someone up was to be better than them in print. He said a lot of things like that, things that sounded like wisdom and turned out to be the kind of advice a man gives when he's decided his own legacy matters more than the people watching him build it. He covered college hockey for 15 years. He had great instincts and terrible boundaries, and eventually he left our family for a woman he met at a Gophers game. She was 23. He called her passionate about the sport. I was 16. I still covered my first game 6 months later, on a borrowed press pass, in an arena that smelled like his cologne and somebody else's arena coffee. I sat in the back row of the press box and took notes on everything, the plays, the crowd, the way the light hit the ice in the third period. I filed a piece to nobody. I kept it anyway. I cover hockey because I'm good at it. Not because of him. That distinction matters to me, even when I'm the only one who knows it. Derek Voss called me into his office at 10:30. His assistant Preston told me to go right in. I knocked anyway. Old habit. Derek was at his desk with 2 monitors open and a coffee cup that said boss in large letters, a gift from his wife that I'm pretty sure he has never once found funny. He looked up when I came in. He was smiling. That was the first sign something was wrong. Derek Voss smiles when he wants something or when he's already gotten it. The smile meant he'd made a decision and he liked it, and he was about to tell me about it in a way designed to make me feel like I was being done a favor. I sat down without being asked. The photo, he said. Yes. 41,000 likes as of this morning. We've had 3 brands reach out about sponsored content based on the traffic alone. ESPN picked up the item. He tapped his pen against the desk. ESPN, Ava. I saw. This is the most engagement we've had on a non-game post in 14 months. I kept my face even. I understand that. And I'd like to talk about the caption your social team ran with my photo without asking me first. Good news, he said. Like I hadn't spoken. I stopped. I'm reassigning you. He opened a folder on his desk and pushed it toward me. Long-form profile. Michael Lindqvist. 10,000 words, full access, photo shoot, the works. We're pitching it as an exclusive to 3 national outlets after we run it. This is a cover piece, Ava. This is the kind of thing careers are built on. I looked at the folder. I didn't touch it. You want me to write a profile, I said slowly, about the player I was photographed with. Framed as a follow-up to a photo that implied I was involved with him. I want you to write the best piece of your career about the most private player in the NHL, who has never given a real interview in 2 years, and who, based on last night's photo, might actually talk to you. He leaned back. The narrative writes itself. That's what I'm worried about. He smiled again. This time it was smaller. More specific. You're my best reporter, he said. You know that. But best reporters get the best assignments, and the best assignments go to people who understand that sometimes the story and the reporter overlap a little. A pause. Unless you'd rather I give this to Tom and reassign you to the Women's Rec League coverage we picked up last month. The folder sat between us on his desk. I picked it up. I'll need full editorial control over framing, I said. Within reason. Full control or I go to Tom. He looked at me for a long moment. Then he nodded once, like it had been his idea all along. I walked out of his office with the folder under my arm and went straight to the bathroom and stood at the sink and looked at myself in the mirror for about 15 seconds. Then I washed my hands, picked up my bag, and left the building. I had a meeting to get to. Chapter 2. The Arrangement. Michael's POV. I have been on the ice since 6. Not because I have to be. Practice doesn't start until 9. I'm here because the rink is empty at 6 and I can think better when the only sound is the scrape of my own edges and the low hum of the refrigeration units under the ice. Some players need music. Some need crowd noise. I need this, the dark stands, the cold air, the clean surface that hasn't been touched yet by anyone else. I do laps for 40 minutes. Just laps. Nothing technical. I let my legs go and I watch the ice go by under me and I don't think about much. That is the closest I get to quiet. At 6:50 I do edges. At 7:15 I work on my breakout pass until it's automatic. At 8 I'm in the locker room when the first of the other guys start to arrive, and by the time Coach Brandt runs his pre-practice meeting I'm already 2 hours into my day and nobody knows it. That is also how I prefer it. Jonah Baptiste has been my line mate and my closest thing to a friend on this team for 3 years. He is loud in the way that I am not, which means he covers most of the talking in any room we're both in, which suits us both. He arrived at 8:40 and dropped onto the bench beside me while I was retaping my stick. So, he said. I kept taping. The photo. I saw it. 40-something thousand likes, man. You're basically famous now. He grinned. Well. She's famous. You're the arm. I looked up at him. He raised both hands. I'm just saying. The arm is getting attention. From across the locker room, our left wing competitor said, without looking up from his phone, Lindqvist's got a girlfriend. She's not my girlfriend, I said. She's not your girlfriend, Kem said. I went back to taping my stick. This is how it goes on a hockey team. Someone notices something, it gets repeated until it stops being interesting, and then it dies. I have learned that the fastest way to kill a story in a locker room is to say less than people want to hear. Eventually they run out of material and move on. I said nothing else. Practice started. I played well. I play well every day because that is what I do. After practice, Marcus was waiting by my stall with a folder. A folder means numbers. A folder means decisions. I sat down, unlaced my skates, and waited for him to start. Marcus Hale has been my agent for 4 years. He is good at his job, which means he tells me things I don't want to hear in a tone that sounds like he's doing me a kindness. I have learned to listen for the thing underneath what he's actually saying. He opened the folder and set it on the bench next to me. Contract projections. League comparables. A 1-page summary from the Frost's new ownership group, whose names I still don't know and don't particularly want to. The extension offer is lower than we expected, he said. How much lower? He told me the number. I looked at my skates. They've cited marketability as a factor in the valuation. Your on-ice performance metrics are in the top 12% for defensive players league-wide. They know that. They're not questioning your value on the ice. Marcus paused. Off the ice is the problem. I play hockey, I said. I don't need to be marketable. You do if you want them to pay you what you're worth. He sat down across from me. The new ownership group has built their model around what they call total player value. Performance plus profile. They want players who move product, Michael. Endorsements, media visibility, social engagement. You have none of those things. I have blocked shots and zone exits, which are worth significantly less to them than a Twitter following. I said nothing. They've had preliminary conversations with 2 AHL defensemen, Marcus said quietly. Both younger. Both more visible. They're not threatening you. They're showing you options. I understood what he was saying. I had understood it before he finished the second sentence. I just needed a moment to let it exist before I responded, which is something most people don't give me, and which Marcus has learned to provide. What do you want me to do? I said. He picked up the folder. The photo is an opportunity. You've avoided press for 2 years. Everyone knows it. The fact that there's a photo of you and a journalist, a credible one, not a tabloid, looking the way you two look in that photo, that's not a crisis. That's a door that just opened. She was doing her job. She looked like she was enjoying your company. People can enjoy each other's company without. I know. He held up a hand. I'm not saying it was real. I'm saying it looked real. And looking real is worth something. He pulled a printed page from the folder and set it on my knee. She's a good writer. Serious reporter. The Rinkside Report wants to do a long-form profile. Full access, your words, your terms. It runs nationally. It reframes your entire public presence in one piece. I stared at the page. And if she and I are also seen together a few times in the meantime, I said. Accidentally. Marcus said nothing, which was its own kind of answer. I don't do that, I said. Michael. I don't perform for cameras. I never have. That's not, I stopped. Picked my words. That's not who I am. I know who you are, Marcus said. He kept his voice level. No drama. Just the facts laid out flat like ice waiting for someone to step onto it. And in 6 months, if this contract falls through, who you are is a 30-year-old defenseman playing in the AHL for a third of what you're worth. Because the league has decided that being excellent at your job isn't enough anymore. He closed the folder. So. What do you want to do? I sat with it. Outside I could hear the Zamboni starting its second pass. The ice being remade. Set up the meeting, I said. The coffee shop is 3 blocks from the arena. Small place. Mismatched chairs, no music, the kind of lighting that makes everyone look slightly tired. I chose it because I know the owner and he has never once tried to take my picture. I got there at 9:50 for a 10 o'clock meeting. That is always my preference, see the room before the other person does. She was already there. She had the corner table, back to the wall, facing the door. Her coffee was already half gone. Her recorder was sitting in the exact center of the table with the red light off, which told me she'd thought about whether to have it on before I arrived and decided against it. Her notebook was open but she wasn't writing in it. She was watching the door. When she saw me, she didn't wave. She just looked at me steadily, the way someone looks when they've been waiting and they're not going to pretend they haven't been. I sat down across from her. She said, "Before we start, I need you to know I'm not interested in writing puff pieces, and I'm definitely not interested in a fake relationship. So let's figure out another way to solve both our problems." I looked at her. She held my gaze without blinking. Her hands were flat on the table, one on each side of the recorder, like she'd placed them there deliberately. Her jaw was set. She meant every word. In 2 years of declining every media request that came through Marcus's office, I had built a clear picture in my head of what journalists are. Aggressive. Performing. Always after the thing you don't want them to have. She wasn't performing. She was negotiating. There was a difference, and I noticed it immediately, and I didn't know what to do with it. I picked up the menu, even though I already knew what I was ordering. "Okay," I said. She blinked. Just once. Like she'd expected more resistance. Okay. Tell me your terms. For the first time since I sat down, something in her face shifted. Not relief exactly. More like recalibration, like she'd walked into a room expecting one kind of problem and found a different one waiting. She pulled the notebook closer. Uncapped her pen. Start talking, she said. Chapter 3. Terms and Conditions. Ava's POV. He orders a black coffee. No menu, no pause, no please. Just the words, flat, directed at the server, and then his attention is back on me like it never left. That is the first thing I notice about Michael Lindqvist up close. He doesn't waste motion. Everything he does is exactly what it needs to be and nothing more. I find this, objectively, very annoying. My notebook is open. My pen is uncapped. I've done this enough times that the setup is automatic, tools out, posture straight, game face on. The recorder stays off until we've agreed on terms because nobody talks freely with a red light blinking at them, and I need people to talk freely. He watches me arrange everything without comment. His coffee arrives. He wraps one hand around it and waits. Full access, I say. Practices. Pre-game. Travel, at minimum 2 road trips. I shadow you through a game week from start to finish. I need to see how you work, not just how you play. Why? Because a profile that's just stats and post-game quotes is a Wikipedia page. Anyone can write that. Nobody will read it, it won't change your public narrative, and in 6 months you'll still be the most invisible player on a team that's trying to sell jerseys. I keep my voice even. You need people to know who you are. That requires me to actually find out. He looks at his coffee. In exchange, I continue, I agree to 2, maximum 3, coordinated public appearances. Nothing staged to the point of obvious. Nothing that looks like a PR stunt. We let the photo exist as a starting point and we build something around it that reads as organic. By the time my piece runs, the narrative is about who you are as a player, not whether we're together. The relationship angle is context, not the story. A beat of quiet. And your editor, he says. He approved this framing. My editor approved a profile. The framing is mine. You're sure about that? I look at him directly. I'm the one writing it. He holds the look for a moment. Then he nods once, and puts his coffee down. No personal questions, he says. Define personal. Family. Sweden. Anything before I was drafted. I feel the immediate, reflexive response rise in my chest. That's literally all journalism is, the part you're not supposed to see, the years before someone became a name, and I push it back down. He's not giving me everything on day one. Nobody does. The questions I can't ask today are just the questions I'll have to earn later. Agreed, I say. Something shifts in his face. So small I almost miss it. Like he expected me to argue and doesn't know what to do with the fact that I didn't. Any other terms, he says. I send you the piece before it goes to my editor. Not for approval. So there are no surprises. If something I've written is factually wrong, you tell me. If you just don't like how it makes you look, that's not a reason for changes. And the public appearances. I'll let Marcus handle the logistics. I just need 24 hours notice so I can arrange coverage. He looks at me for a long moment. Not like he's trying to figure me out. More like he's deciding something, and he needs to be sure before he says it. You're not going to make this into something it isn't, he says. I'm going to make it into the best piece I've ever written. That's not an answer. No, I say. I'm not going to make it into something it isn't. He picks up his coffee again. Drinks. Sets it down. Okay, he says. He reaches across the table. His hand is large, the knuckles slightly off from old injuries, and his grip is firm and completely businesslike. It lasts exactly as long as a handshake should last and not 1 second longer. Then it's over and his hand is back on his side of the table and he's looking at the door like he's already thinking about the next thing on his schedule. I write the words Lindqvist, terms agreed at the top of a fresh notebook page and underline them twice. I get home at 12:30. My apartment is quiet. The story wall is the first thing I see when I come in, it always is, the way you always look at the thing you care most about even when you don't mean to. I drop my bag on the couch and stand in front of it for a minute with my coat still on. 47 names in 3 years. Players, coaches, general managers, an equipment manager who turned out to have the most interesting life story on the roster. Every one of them a story. Every one of them copy on a page by the time I was done. I go to my desk and pull out a blank index card. I write his name in capital letters. Michael Lindqvist. I look at my wall. Most of the names are arranged by date, the order I wrote them. I find the center, not the physical center of the wall, but the anchor point, the place where the eye goes first. The place where the most important story goes. I pin his card there. Then I stand back and look at it. This will be fine. He's a subject. A story. A solution to a problem. I have covered 47 players in 3 years and every single one of them has eventually become copy on a page. He is no different. I make lunch and eat it standing at the counter and don't think about his handshake at all. Chapter 4. Practice. Michael's POV. She arrives at 8:50. I see her before she sees me. She's at the side entrance, the press entrance, not the player one, talking to our communications manager Shelley, who is pointing toward the boards and saying something with her hands. Ava nods. She's already got her notebook open. Her bag is over one shoulder and her recorder is clipped to the outside pocket, which tells me she's done enough of this that everything she needs is exactly where she can reach it. She looks toward the ice. Then she looks up at the stands, then at the tunnel, then at the Frost logo at center ice. Methodical. Like she's reading a room she's going to have to describe later. Then she looks across the ice and finds me, and I realize I've stopped moving. I start moving again. Practice runs from 9 to 11:15 on home days. Coach Brandt runs a tight schedule, systems work first, then line rushes, then specialty situations, then open ice at the end if we've earned it. We usually earn it. We're a good team. We work. I do not think about the woman in the stands for the first 40 minutes. Then Jonah pulls up beside me during a water break and says, quietly, out of the side of his mouth, "She's been watching you specifically for the last 20 minutes. She's writing a profile about me." That's her job. Sure. But she's not writing anything down. She's just watching. I look. Ava is sitting 3 rows up in the stands, second section from the visitors' bench. Her notebook is in her lap but her pen isn't moving. She's watching Kim Peters run a corner drill. She's watching Peters, I say. She was watching you before she was watching Peters. Jonah drinks from his water bottle. I'm just saying. Don't, I say. He skates away smiling. I try to keep track of her without tracking her, which is not a thing a person can actually do. She talks to Jonah during the break between systems work and line rushes. I can't hear what they're saying but I can read the conversation from across the ice. He's telling a story, the kind where he uses his hands, and she's laughing at the right moments but still writing. She writes while she laughs. That is something I file away without meaning to. She talks to our equipment manager Pete for 4 minutes. I know because I count. Pete is 62, has worked in NHL locker rooms for 30 years, and will not talk to press under any normal circumstances. He turned down a Sports Illustrated writer last February without a word, just pointed at the door. He stands there talking to Ava Sinclair for 4 minutes and ends the conversation by laughing. She didn't flatter him. I can tell by the body language, she asked him something real and he liked being asked. I skate 3 hard laps during specialty situations and don't think about it. After practice she's still in the stands when I come out of the locker room. Showered, bag repacked, standing in the aisle with her phone in her hand reading something with a slight frown. I almost walk past. The arrangement doesn't require conversation every day. We established the terms. We're both working. She looks up. You have a tell, she says. I stop. What? When you're setting up for a block. Your left shoulder drops about half a second before you commit. I watched you do it 4 times during the power play drill. I look at her. I'm not going to print it, she says. I'm just saying. You might want to know. I don't say anything for a moment. No reporter has ever said that to me. They ask about wins and losses and team chemistry and whether I'm happy with the coaching staff. They don't watch defensive positioning. I know about the shoulder, I say. And I use it on purpose sometimes. To sell the setup. I start walking. 3 times out of 4 it's a tell. The 4th time it's a fake. I hear her laugh behind me, quiet, like she didn't mean to. I keep walking. The parking lot is gray and cold at 11:40. The kind of cold that gets into your collar if you don't zip all the way up. Marcus texted me at 10, photographer in the east lot. Blue sedan. Don't look directly at him. Just walk her to her car. 20 seconds. I had not replied. Ava falls into step beside me at the side exit. She already knows, Marcus must have told her, because she's put her recorder away and her bag is on both shoulders, not just one. She is ready to be photographed. She's done something that makes her look more present, more deliberate. She knows exactly what she's doing. I, on the other hand, am walking through a parking lot trying to look like a person who naturally walks women to their cars and finding it significantly harder than any defensive scheme I have run this season. You're walking like you're marching into a penalty box, she says, low, without moving her lips much. I'm walking normally. You're walking like you're angry at the pavement. I slow down slightly. You're supposed to look like you like me, she says. I look at the blue sedan. I look ahead. I look at the space between us, which is professional and appropriate and absolutely nothing like 2 people who are anything to each other. I'm working on it, I say. We make it to her car. She puts her hand on the door handle. The photographer, wherever he is, has had approximately 15 seconds of us walking side by side in what I sincerely hope reads as something other than 2 strangers being herded through a parking lot. Same time Thursday, she says. Practices start at 9. I'll be there at 8:50. I nod. She gets in her car. I walk back toward the arena without looking at the blue sedan. Marcus calls me before I reach the door. That was fine, he says. We got it. I know, I say, and hang up. The photo posts at 4:17. I know because Jonah sends it to the team group chat with 0 words, just the image, and within 90 seconds there are 14 reactions and Cam Peters has typed told you with 3 hockey stick emojis. The photo is better than the first one. I don't know how. We were just walking. But something about the angle, the cold air, the way she's looking straight ahead while I'm looking slightly toward her, it reads like something. Like a moment that's already happened and is about to happen again. I put my phone face down on the kitchen counter and make dinner. I don't check the engagement numbers. Marcus will send a summary in the morning and I will read it the way I read all his notes, which is once and then not again. She had a pen in her hand the whole time we were walking and I don't think she realized it. A reporter who can't put the pen down even when she's trying to be something other than a reporter. I put water on for pasta and don't think about that either. Chapter 5. Background research. Ava's POV. The rule I set myself, 5 years ago, is this: know everything about a subject before you ask them anything. Not because you want to catch them out. Not to play games. But because an interview where the reporter knows less than the subject is just a press release with better grammar. You need to walk in already holding the shape of someone's life so that when they talk, you know which parts are new and which parts are the story they've been telling for years. I spend Thursday evening with Michael Lindqvist's file. The basic biography is straightforward. Born in Gothenburg, Sweden. Father was a hockey coach. Grew up playing for Frölunda, one of the top youth programs in the country. Drafted at 19 by the Frost, 41st overall, the kind of draft position that means the team saw something but weren't willing to bet high on it. He spent 3 seasons back in Sweden developing, which is unusual. Most players that age push to come over immediately. He waited. He arrived in Minnesota at 22, played 30 games his first full season, 48 his second, and hasn't missed a significant stretch since. His defensive metrics are exceptional. His penalty minutes are low. He doesn't fight. He doesn't showboat. 6 years in the league and his Wikipedia page is 4 paragraphs. I open the media archive next. Press conference transcripts, post-game quotes, any recorded interview. I expect thin. I get almost nothing. There are 12 instances of him speaking on record in 6 years. 12. An average of 2 per season. Every quote is about systems, team performance, or deflecting credit to someone else. The longest answer he ever gave to a reporter was 32 words. I count. Then I find the Swedish magazine piece. It's from his second year at Frölunda, before the draft, before he was on anyone's radar outside of Sweden. A youth hockey feature in a regional magazine, the kind of thing that doesn't get translated or archived in North American databases. I find it through a link on a Swedish hockey forum and run it through a translation tool, then spend an hour cleaning up the syntax until it reads like a real interview and not a machine guessing at language. Most of it is standard. His coaches say he's mature beyond his years. His teammates say he keeps to himself. His father, quoted once, says, "Michael understands that the work is enough. He does not need the applause." Then the interviewer asks him what he does after a hard loss. The answer, cleaned up from the translation, "I go home and I sit with it." Most people want to talk a loss away. I think you need to let it exist first. I read it once. I read it again. I don't write it in my notes. The notes are for the piece. This is something else, the thing underneath the statistics, the sentence that tells me who someone actually is before the league got hold of them and trained them to answer questions about the league. I close my laptop and sit in the kitchen for a while. Then I get up and clean the entire apartment, which is what I do when I'm thinking hard and don't want to admit it. Cassie arrives at 8:30 with a bottle of wine and the expression she wears when she has already formed an opinion and is deciding how long to wait before sharing it. I met Cassie in college. She was my editor at the campus paper for 2 years and she has approximately zero patience for people who lie to themselves, which means our friendship has always required a certain amount of courage on my part. She takes in the spotless kitchen. The freshly reorganized bookshelves. The story wall, which I may have adjusted slightly since Thursday. "How long have you been cleaning?" she says. I wasn't cleaning. I was reorganizing. Same thing when you do it. She opens the wine and pours 2 glasses and sits down on my couch. Talk. So I talk. I tell her about the photo, about Derek, about the meeting at the coffee shop. I tell her about the terms and the handshake in the parking lot and the second photo and the engagement numbers. I tell her about the file and the Swedish magazine piece. I don't tell her about pinning his name card in the center of the wall, because some things are private even from Cassie. She listens to all of it without interrupting, which means she already has the full opinion formed and is just waiting for me to finish. "So," she says, when I stop talking, "you're fake dating a tall, silent, incredibly attractive Swedish hockey player." 4 career reasons. Not dating. Adjacent to dating. For the appearance of possible dating. Temporarily. Right. She sips her wine. And you're going to be fine. Completely fine. Totally believe you. Cassie. I do, she says. I absolutely believe you're going to be completely fine. People fake date career-critical subjects all the time and feel nothing about it whatsoever. There's nothing to feel. It's an arrangement. It has terms. I wrote the terms. You wrote the terms, she repeats slowly, like she's tasting the words. Ava. You stress cleaned for 2 hours before I got here. I stress clean all the time. You stress clean before hard interviews and before you file pieces you're not sure about and before first dates. I drink my wine. Cassie watches me. He's a subject, I say. Okay. He's a story. I have covered 47 players. Every single one of them has eventually become copy on a page, she says, finishing the sentence I've already said out loud to myself tonight, alone in the kitchen, when I thought no one was listening. She knows me well enough that she doesn't even look smug about it. She just looks steady, the way she always does when she's watching me get close to the edge of something I haven't admitted yet. He's different, I say, before I can stop myself. Cassie doesn't say anything. I mean professionally. The story is different. He's more, I stop. The access is different. The profile is going to be different from anything I've written before. Sure, she says. Cassie. I said sure. I believe you. I know what that tone means. I have known what that tone means since we were 20 years old. I change the subject and she lets me, because that is also something Cassie knows how to do, give you the truth and then give you room to get there in your own time. She leaves at 11. I wash both glasses and put them away. Then I open my laptop and write 4 questions I'm not allowed to ask him yet. I save the document as background, do not file and close the laptop and go to bed. I do not think about the Swedish magazine. I do not think about what it means when a 19-year-old talks about sitting with a loss instead of talking it away. I do not think about him at all. At 2:15 in the morning I pick up my phone and pull up the translation one more time and read the answer about the loss again. I go home and I sit with it. I put the phone down. Chapter 6. Home ice disadvantage. Michael's POV. The suit is fine. The suit is not the problem. The problem is the room. I have played hockey in front of 19,000 people. I have been on the ice for playoff games where the noise was physical, where you could feel the crowd in your chest cavity like a second heartbeat. Pressure does not bother me. Big rooms do not bother me. This room bothers me. It is the Minnesota Frost's annual charity gala, held every November in the ballroom of a hotel downtown that I have walked past 100 times and never been inside. 250 people. Round tables with white cloths. A string quartet in the corner playing something I don't recognize. Waitstaff moving between guests with champagne on trays. Everyone is looking at everyone else, and I have spent 6 years becoming a person nobody looks at. I find a wall near the far end of the room and stand in front of it and drink my water. She arrives 12 minutes after I do. I see her come through the door and I notice 2 things immediately. The first is that the green dress is the kind of thing that makes a room adjust. Not because it's excessive, it isn't, it's simple and fitted and not trying to be anything, but because she wears it with the same quality she wears everything, which is like she decided to put it on and then stopped thinking about it entirely. The second thing I notice is that she scans the room the moment she walks in, the same way she scanned the arena on her first practice day. Reading it. Filing it. She finds me against the wall in approximately 4 seconds. She walks over. Stands beside me. Looks at the room. You look like you're guarding the perimeter, she says. I'm standing here. Against the wall. With your arms crossed. I uncross my arms. Better, she says. She picks up a glass of champagne from a passing tray. Have you talked to anyone? I talked to Coach Brandt when I came in. That's it. He was the only person I recognized. She looks at me. Then she looks back at the room, and I watch her do something that I can only describe as shifting gears, some internal adjustment, a decision, and then she says, "Come on," and walks into the crowd like she owns it. I follow her because that is apparently what I'm doing now. She knows how to work a room. That is the only phrase for it. She moves through the crowd with her champagne glass held low, and she stops at a table of Frost team sponsors, and within 60 seconds she has learned that the woman in the blue blazer is named Carol and has been coming to this gala for 8 years and her son played junior hockey in Duluth. She asks Carol one question about the son. Carol talks for 4 minutes. Ava listens with her whole body, the way most people only listen when they're waiting for a gap to speak into, and when Carol finishes Ava says something that makes her laugh. I stand beside Ava through all of this and contribute nothing except the fact of being there, which appears to be sufficient. People look at me the way people always look at athletes at these events, with a recognition that isn't quite personal, more like identifying a type of animal they've seen in a documentary. I nod. I smile when the timing suggests I should. She doesn't need me to talk. She's carrying the whole thing and making it look like a conversation. We move to a second table. Then a third. At each one she pulls the most interesting person into the center of the exchange and gets out of the way, and by the time we leave they feel like the room is a little more theirs than it was before. I watch her do it at 4 separate tables and then I say, quietly, walking between clusters of people, "You don't actually enjoy this." She glances at me. "What makes you say that?" "You exhale every time we step away from a group." "Just slightly." "You hold your breath through the conversation." A pause. "Then, I enjoy it when it's working." "And when it's not?" "It's always working," she says. "That's the whole point." She says it without looking at me. But the corner of her mouth does something that isn't quite a smile and isn't quite something else. The anchor finds us at 9:40. His name is Garrett Home. He has been on local sports television for 22 years and he wears the confidence of a man who has never once been told to wait his turn. He is also, I know from 6 years of press scrums, the kind of reporter who believes that women near hockey teams are there for reasons that have nothing to do with hockey. He comes up behind Ava at the bar while she's getting a second glass of champagne. I'm 2 feet to her left. He doesn't look at me. Ava Sinclair, he says, like he's announcing her. Interesting assignment you've landed yourself. She turns around. Her face does nothing. Garrett. Good to see you. Long-form profile on the league's most reclusive defenseman. He looks over her shoulder at me with the specific expression of a man who has decided something and wants you to know he's decided it. Funny how that works out. One photo and suddenly you're the only reporter in the city with access. I pitched the piece, she says. My editor approved it. Of course he did. Garrett smiles. The kind of smile that means the opposite of what it looks like. Must be nice. Having a subject who's willing to talk. He pauses just long enough. Among other things. I step forward. Not much. 6 inches. But I step forward so that I'm beside her instead of behind her, and I look at Garrett Home the way I look at forwards who think they can park in front of my net. She's the best reporter in this room, I say. I specifically requested her for the profile. I hold the look for 1 second. She earned the access. Flat. No raised voice. Nothing aggressive. Just the words, and the fact of me saying them, which is apparently enough. Garrett Home looks at me. He looks at her. He picks up his drink and says, looking forward to reading it, and moves away. Ava doesn't watch him go. She's looking at her champagne glass. You didn't have to do that, she says. I know. She looks up at me. Her expression is doing something careful, something managed, and underneath it there is something else that she is working very hard not to show. Thank you, she says. I nod. We go back to the tables. The car home is quiet. She arranged a driver and I'm beside her in the back because Marcus said we should arrive and leave together when possible, and the city goes by outside the window and neither of us says anything for a while. Then, you didn't have to do that. You already said that. I know. I'm saying it again because, she stops. Starts over. I handle things myself. I've been handling things myself in that press world for 3 years and I don't need, she pauses. I didn't need you to step in. I know, I say. So why did you? I look out the window. The lights on the bridge go by one at a time. Because what he said wasn't true, I say. And I was there. That's all. She doesn't answer. I can feel her looking at the side of my face. Okay, she says finally, quietly. The car crosses the bridge. She goes back to looking out her window. I go back to looking out mine. I did it because it was true. That's all. I almost believe myself. Chapter 7. Off the record. Ava's POV. The game ends at 10:12. I file my game notes from the press box in real time, the way I always do, live updates into the system, running the play-by-play in my head and turning it into sentences while it's still happening. By the time the final buzzer sounds I have 400 words drafted and my fingers already know what comes next. The Frost win 3-1. Michael doesn't score, but he kills a penalty in the third that directly saves the result, a 2-minute stretch where he's everywhere, blocking a shot, breaking up a pass, bodying their top forward off the puck in the corner with the quiet efficiency of someone doing a job they've done 10,000 times. I write, Lindqvist's presence in his own end is the kind that only shows up in the box score as an absence, no goals against, no penalties. The work nobody films and everybody relies on. I like that line. I leave it. The arena empties the way arenas always do after a home win, fast and loud and then suddenly quiet, like a wave pulling back from a shore. The press box thins out. Tom Riley leaves without saying goodbye, which is his normal. The 2 beat writers from rival outlets pack up and go. I stay because I'm not done with my notes and because the empty arena after a game is one of my favorite places in the world, which is something I've never told anyone, including Cassie. There is a particular quality to an arena at 10:30 on a Tuesday night after the crowd has gone. The ice is still marked up from the game, edge cuts and skate lines, the evidence of 60 minutes of work laid out like a map. The overhead lights are on the low setting. The scoreboard is dark. It is big and hollow and completely still, and in that stillness there is something that feels like the truth of the place, separate from the spectacle. I'm still writing when I hear the door at the back of the press box open. I don't turn around immediately. Partly because I'm mid-sentence. Partly because press box doors open and close all night, security, facility staff, other reporters coming back for forgotten items. I finish the sentence. I look up. It's Michael. He's out of his gear, in a gray long sleeve and dark pants and sneakers, his hair still damp from the shower. He's carrying nothing. He looks at the seat next to me, then at me, with the specific non-question of someone who is going to sit down anyway and is deciding whether to ask first. I pull my bag off the seat beside me and put it on the floor. He sits. He doesn't explain why he's here. I don't ask. I go back to my notes. Below us, the Zamboni comes out. It moves in slow, wide arcs, smoothing everything over, and the sound it makes is low and constant, the kind of sound that fills a space without taking it over. We sit with it for a while. I finish my game notes. I close my laptop. I don't leave. Neither does he. 10 minutes pass. Maybe 12. I don't check my phone. Then he says, "My sister's name is Elsa." I go still. Not visibly, I don't move, I don't change what my hands are doing. But something in me goes completely quiet and I hold it there while he talks. She's 23. She came to visit 2 years ago, in November. She came to a home game. A pause. He is looking at the ice, not at me. After the game she went to dinner with a friend. 2 blocks from the arena. Another pause, longer. Someone followed her from the building. Took photographs of her through the restaurant window for 2 hours. I don't say anything. Posted them online. Her name, the city, what she was wearing. The comments were, he stops. His jaw moves slightly. They were not about hockey. Michael. She was fine. She is fine. She flew home the next day and she has not come back to visit since. He pauses on that last part. I hear what he isn't saying. I stopped giving interviews after that. I stopped engaging with press. I stopped, he looks down at his hands. I removed as many access points as I could. I'm sorry, I say. I say it simply, without construction around it. No professional empathy, no careful journalist pivot to the next question. Just the 2 words, because they are the only true thing to say. He looks at me then. Briefly. Checking something. I'm telling you, he says, so that you understand why some of my terms are not negotiable. Not because I trust you. Understood, I say. He nods. He looks back at the ice. Below us the Zamboni finishes its last pass and retreats into the tunnel. The ice is perfect now. Smooth and white and unmarked, like the game never happened. Neither of us speaks for another few minutes. Then he stands up. He picks up nothing, because he came with nothing, and he says without looking at me, "You're a good writer." He's through the door before I can respond. I sit in the press box for another 20 minutes. My recorder is on the table in front of me. It has been there the whole time, its red light off, right where I put it at the start of the game. I did not reach for it once. I did not think about reaching for it. That's the thing I keep coming back to, sitting in the empty press box with the clean ice below and the low lights and the quiet. Not what he told me, though I'll carry that for a long time. But the fact that the thought didn't cross my mind. 3 years ago I would have reached for it. 2 years ago, maybe. Not tonight. I don't know exactly when that changed. I pack up slowly. I zip my bag. I stand up. He called me a good writer. No qualification, no, for a sports reporter, or, for someone your age. Just the words. I walk out of the press box and down the corridor and into the Minneapolis cold, and I don't analyze it. I just carry it home, the way you carry something fragile, carefully, with both hands, trying not to look at it too directly in case it turns out to be less than you thought. When I get home, I do not open my laptop. I do not add to my notes. I do not write any version of what just happened in any document, titled or otherwise. Some things you sit with first. I learned that tonight, or maybe I already knew it and just needed someone to prove it true. Chapter 8. The deal goes public. Michael's POV. The article is up when I wake at 5:50. I don't know how I know before I check. Some shift in the quality of the silence, maybe, or the particular way my phone screen lights up the ceiling when a notification comes through even on mute. I lie there for a moment looking at the ceiling, and then I reach over and pick it up. Sports Weekly. Their morning newsletter, sent at 5:30 to a subscriber list of 200,000. The headline, Lindqvist lets someone in, and she's carrying a press badge. Below it, 2 photographs. The parking lot. The gala exit. In both of them we are side by side, and in both of them something about the composition makes the space between us look smaller than it was. The item is 240 words. I count them. Marcus's voice is all through it, careful, warm, deniable. The phrase used is, getting to know each other during an extended profile process. There is a quote attributed to a source close to Lindqvist that says he requested her specifically. That part is true, technically. Marcus has made it mean something it wasn't. I put the phone on my chest and look at the ceiling. My coffee maker starts automatically at 6. I listen to it from the bedroom and don't move. By the time I get to the rink, Jonah has already seen it. He is waiting by my stall with the same expression he wears when he has something to say and is deciding whether patience or efficiency is the right strategy. He opts for efficiency. Sports Weekly, he says. I saw it. It's been picked up by 4 other outlets already. TSN put it on their morning rundown. I pull my bag open and start unpacking my gear. Shin pads first. The guys are going to give you hell, Jonah says. I know. Are you okay? I stop. Look at him. Jonah Baptiste is one of the few people in this league who asks questions and actually wants the answer. I don't know yet, I say. He nods. He sits down on the bench across from me and doesn't push it further, which is another thing I've always appreciated about him. Cam Peters arrives at 8:20 and has 3 things to say, all of them loud, none of them worth repeating. I let him say them. The fastest way to kill a story in a locker room is still to say less than people want to hear. I'm in my car in the parking garage when Elsa calls. It's noon in Gothenburg. She has already read everything, which I knew before she said a word because she only calls at noon on a weekday when something has happened. Mickey. Elsa. I saw the article. I know. Both of them. The Sports Weekly one and the one from that hockey news site. A pause. And the gala photo on the Frost's official account. It's a profile piece. You hate profiles. The contract. I know about the contract. Marcus emailed me. Her voice is even. She has our father's quality of staying level when she's concerned, which means she always sounds calmer than the situation warrants. I'm not asking about the contract. I look at the steering wheel. She seems real, Elsa says. She's a journalist. You keep saying that. You said it in the Sports Weekly quote. Well, Marcus said it in the Sports Weekly quote. But you let him. A pause. That's the part one keep coming back to. I don't answer. Mickey. I've read the quote 4 times. You don't talk like that. Not to press. Not to anyone outside the team. The part about requesting her specifically, Marcus wrote that. He drafted it. And you approved it. Another silence. Longer. It was true, I say. I know, Elsa says softly. That's what I'm saying. She doesn't push it further. She asks about the team, about the road schedule, about whether I've been sleeping. I answer each question. We say goodbye the way we always do, her telling me to call more, me agreeing and meaning it. I sit in the car for a few minutes after she hangs up. But you let him. I start the car and pull out of the garage. The text comes in at 6:17 that evening while I'm eating dinner. Her name in the notification. Nothing else visible until I open it. I put my fork down. We need to talk. Then, my editor wants a relationship angle in the profile. Not just hockey. He wants the story of us. I read it twice. Outside my window the city is going dark, the sky doing that thing it does in November where the last of the light leaves fast and without ceremony, and suddenly it's just cold and black and the city lights and nothing else. A relationship angle. The story of us. Two phrases Marcus would call progress and I would call the moment a controlled situation becomes something else entirely. I pick up my fork. I put it down again. Then I type, tomorrow. Same coffee shop. 9. Her reply comes back in under a minute. I'll be there at 8:50. I go back to my dinner. I eat it looking out the window at the dark city and I think about Elsa's voice on the phone and the way Ava sat in the press box last week without reaching for a recorder and the quote that Marcus wrote that I approved because it was true. The wall I built has a door in it now. I don't know exactly when that happened. Chapter 9. Renegotiating terms. Ava's POV. His apartment is on the 14th floor of a building in Wayzata, overlooking the lake. I know this because Marcus texted me the address. I know nothing else about it, which means I spend the elevator ride up doing the thing I always do before I enter a new space, clearing my assumptions, trying to go in blank. It never fully works. I always have a theory. My theory: athlete's apartment. Large TV, sparse furniture, protein powder on the counter, maybe a framed jersey on a wall somewhere. The door opens and I am wrong on all counts. The apartment is quiet and spare in the way of a place where someone has thought carefully about what to keep. No clutter. No decoration for decoration's sake. A long window faces the lake and the November light comes through it flat and gray and makes the room feel like the inside of something calm. A couch. A low table with nothing on it. A kitchen where every surface is clear. One shelf of books along the far wall. I notice it immediately and I make myself look away from it, because I've been in this man's home for 30 seconds and I'm already reading the room like a story I've been assigned, and that is not why I'm here. I'm here to negotiate. Coffee, he says. Please. He moves to the kitchen. I stay near the door for a moment, then I walk slowly to the window and look at the lake. The water is steel gray and still. There are no boats. It looks nothing like the lake in summer and everything like Minneapolis in November, which is to say honest and a little relentless. Black, he calls. Yes. I turn from the window. He's at the counter with his back to me. And I look at the shelf. All Swedish. One row, tight, the spines worn to varying degrees the way books get worn when they've been read more than once. I read the names I can make out from across the room: Lindgren, Mankell, Strindberg, and then at the far end, one spine in English. Thin. Dark green. I know the book before I can read the title. He comes back with 2 mugs and sets them on the low table. I sit on the couch. He takes the chair across from it, which keeps the table between us, which is sensible. Your editor, he says, no preamble. What exactly did he say? I tell him the conversation with Derek as straight as I can. The traffic numbers, the national pitch, the phrase he used, the story of us, and what it would mean in practice, a first-person thread woven through the profile, sourced from my own experience as the reporter inside the Access, framing the relationship as a context for who Michael is rather than a story in itself. It's not nothing, I say when I finish. I want to be clear about that. It's a real expansion of what we agreed to. He wants something personal. Something that reads like I was close enough to see the actual person. Michael is looking at his coffee mug. And Marcus, he says. I assume Marcus wants the same thing for different reasons. He does. A pause. He called me this morning. He said the contract timeline has moved up. They want a decision in 3 weeks, not 6. He sets the mug down. Which means the profile needs to run before then. I look at him. That's not enough time for. I know. Michael. A piece this length needs. I know, he says again, quieter. I'm telling you what I was told. Not what I think is reasonable. The word sits between us. Reasonable. We have been operating in a space adjacent to reasonable since the beginning, and we both know it. I pick up my coffee. I think about Derek Voss and his smile and the women's rec league coverage waiting in the wings like a punishment I was supposed to be afraid of. I think about Tom Riley talking over me in press scrums for 3 years. I think about my byline wall and the index card in the center of it. 2 public dates, I say. Documented but not performed. Nothing that reads like a setup. Agreed. 1 team event. Something natural to the calendar. The road trip to Boston in 2 weeks. Families and partners travel for that one. It wouldn't look unusual. And I write the piece with a suggested romantic undercurrent. Not stated. Implied through proximity, observation, the quality of the access. I'm inside enough to write something true without writing something manufactured. He's quiet for a moment. And if the implication runs further than you intend it to. I'm good at implication, I say. I know exactly where the line is. He looks at me then. Not a quick look. Something more deliberate, the way he looks at things on the ice when he's deciding how much weight to give them. I know, he says. It lands differently than I expected. Not like a compliment. Like a statement of fact that he has arrived at independently and is now naming out loud for the first time. I look away first. Okay, I say. Then we're agreed. I finish my coffee. I pick up my bag. I do a slow sweep of the room the way I always do when I'm leaving a space for the first time, cataloging what I'll remember, and my eyes go back to the shelf. I walk over to it. He doesn't stop me. Most of the Swedish titles I can't read. I run my finger along the spines the way you do in someone else's library, lightly, not pulling anything out, just acknowledging that the books exist and were chosen. At the far end I reach the green spine. I pull it out. A Farewell to Arms. I look at it for a moment. The cover is worn at the corners. The spine is cracked from being opened flat, more than once, more than a few times. This book has been read the way you read something you needed, not something you merely liked. I put it back. I don't say anything about it. There are 20 things I could say, the obvious parallel alone is enough for a paragraph, and I choose none of them. I just put the book back where I found it and pick up my bag again. When I turn around he's watching me. Not with suspicion. Not with the wariness he had in the coffee shop the first day. Something else, something quieter and harder to name, the look of a person watching someone make a decision and being surprised by which decision they make. Thursday practice. I say. 8:50, he says. I nod. I let myself out. I'm in the elevator going down before I let myself breathe all the way. Chapter 10. Road trip, Chicago. Michael's POV. I do not think about her on the flight. I think about the game. I think about Chicago's top line, which runs a cycle that exploits weak side coverage, and the adjustment Coach Brandt wants us to make in our neutral zone setup. I think about the angle on my backhand clear and a breakdown in communication during Tuesday's practice that left a seam open in front of our net. I think about hockey for 2 hours and 15 minutes. Then the plane lands and she's at baggage claim. She flew separately, media travel, different airline, different arrival time according to the schedule Marcus sent. I wasn't supposed to see her until tomorrow. But she's at the baggage carousel in a gray coat with a rolling carry-on already beside her and her phone in her hand, frowning at something on the screen, and I stop in the middle of a moving crowd for the second time since I met her. Jonah, behind me, walks into my back. Lindqvist. You can't just, he follows my line of sight. A brief pause. Ah. It's a coincidence, I say. Obviously, he says, and walks around me. She looks up when Jonah passes her. Then she sees me, 2 steps behind him, and something in her expression does a fast internal negotiation that I'm getting better at reading. Your flight was early, she says. Tailwind. Mine was also early. I see that. Jonah collects his bag and disappears toward the exit without looking back. I know he's smiling without seeing his face. Marcus had booked us at the same hotel, which I knew. He had arranged a photographer for the lobby check-in, which I also knew. What I did not know, until we arrived and the front desk informed us, was that the dinner reservation he'd made for the team's travel party had somehow produced 2 confirmed seats at a table for 2 under my name at a restaurant 4 blocks away. I looked at the confirmation slip. I looked at Ava. "Marcus," she said. "Marcus," I agreed. "We don't have to go." I thought about it. The restaurant was not my choosing, but the arrangement was the arrangement, and we had both agreed to it. "We have 2 hours before the reservation," I said. "I need to review the game film. I have notes to write. I'll meet you in the lobby at 7. She looked at the confirmation slip. Then she looked at me with the expression she wears when she's decided something and is being careful about how she says it. "It doesn't have to be a whole thing," she said. "It's dinner." "I know," I said. Okay. We went to our separate rooms. I reviewed game film for 90 minutes and thought about the restaurant for approximately the same amount of time, which was not what I had planned. The restaurant is small and Italian and lit with the kind of low light that makes everything look more serious than it is. The table is a corner one, Marcus, or whoever Marcus called, and we're seated across from each other with menus we both look at longer than necessary. She orders the soup and the sea base. I order the same soup and the pasta. The waiter leaves and we look at each other across the table, and we are 2 professionals on a work arrangement having dinner for optics, and it is completely fine. "Tell me about the Chicago game plan," she says. "Good. We can do this." I talk about their cycle game, the scene we need to close, the adjustments in neutral zone coverage. She asks precise questions, not fan questions, not narrative questions, structural ones about defensive positioning. She has been paying attention at practices. She understands the system well enough to ask about deviations from it. We talk hockey through the soup course. It runs out somewhere around the pasta. Not immediately, there's a natural pause, a moment where we've covered what we were covering and the next question doesn't come as quickly. She turns her wine glass by the stem. I look at the table. "You have a playlist," she says. I look up. 4 games. Someone in the locker room mentioned it. They said you're the only player who shows up with headphones already on. It helps me focus. What's on it? It changes. Depending on the game. Depending on what about the game. I consider this. Nobody has asked me this before. People ask about music as a social question. What do you listen to? What's your pump-up song? As if the answer is a piece of personality they can file away cleanly. The opponent, I say. Their style. If they're a physical team, I listen to something slower. It keeps me from matching their tempo too early. She's quiet for a moment, turning that over. "That's the opposite of what most players do," she says. "Most players want to feel like they're already in the game before they get there. I want to walk in calm and let the game come to me." She writes nothing. Her notebook isn't even on the table. She's just listening, with the focused, unhurried quality she brought to Pete the equipment manager and Carol at the gala, and I notice, again, that she listens with her whole body. "What's on it tonight?" she says. Arvo Part. Estonian composer. Spare. Mostly silence between the notes. She looks at me for a moment. "That's extremely you," she says. I pick up my wine. "Your first game," I say. "How old were you?" She blinks. I have never been the one to ask a question before. 16. "Was it your choice?" A pause. Something moves across her face, quick, like a door opening and closing. "I used a press pass that belonged to a contact of my father's. He didn't know I took it." She looks at her wine. "He used to cover college hockey. He had contacts everywhere. I knew where he kept his credentials. Used to cover. He left when I was 16. The pass was one of the last things he left behind." She says it without particular weight, the way you say something you've already processed so many times it doesn't catch anymore. The arena smelled like his cologne. I sat in the back of the press box and took notes for 3 hours and never once thought about him. A pause. That's the part one remember most. How little I thought about him once the game started. I don't say I'm sorry. I don't say anything, because I understand, better than she knows, what it means when someone tells you a loss and what they need is not a response but the space to have said it. She looks up. I didn't mean to tell you that. I know. She nods, slowly, like she's filing something away. A man at the table 2 down pulls out his phone. The screen flare catches the side of her face. She doesn't notice. I notice. He's photographing us. Not aggressively, just a phone held at an angle, the way civilians do when they think they're being subtle. I don't move. I don't signal her. I just let it happen, because the photo is going to be what it's going to be and there is nothing in this conversation we haven't already agreed to let be seen. We walk back to the hotel. Chicago in November has a specific kind of cold, wet and direct, coming off the lake, the kind that reaches you through your coat before you've taken 20 steps. She's got a scarf looped twice around her neck and her hands in her pockets and she's walking with her head slightly down against the wind. We're half a block from the hotel when it happens. A patch of black ice, invisible under the sodium light, right at the edge of the sidewalk where the curb drops. She steps onto it wrong, weight forward, left foot sliding, and there's a half second where her balance is completely gone and there's nothing between her and the ground. I catch her. Both arms, from behind, solid and immediate. I've been in enough collisions on the ice to know how bodies fall and how to intercept them. This is no different technically. My arms go around her before I decide to move them and she's upright, her back against my chest, her hands gripping my forearms. We stand like that. 1 second. 2. 3. She's breathing a little faster than normal. I can feel it. I don't let go until she's steady, which takes longer than it should, which I do not acknowledge. I've got you, I say. It comes out quieter than I mean it to. And the words are correct for the ice but they are also, and I know this as I'm saying it, in the way you sometimes know the true version of something before you've finished saying the surface version, about something else entirely. She doesn't say anything. She doesn't pull away, either. After a moment she straightens. My arms drop. We both look at the sidewalk, at the ice, at the hotel 30 feet away. She says, "Thank you." "Careful the rest of the way," I say. We walk the last 30 feet without speaking. She goes to the elevator first. I follow. The doors close. She looks at the floor numbers. I look at the wall. 11 floors of silence, and in the morning we'll both pretend it was just the ice. Chapter 11. The Profile Draft. Ava's POV. The first draft takes me 9 days. That is fast, for a piece this length. The fastest I have ever written something this size is 11 days, and that was on a story where I'd been building the file for 3 months before I sat down. 9 days on Michael Lindqvist is either a product of extraordinary access or something I am not naming. I am not naming it. The piece opens on the ice at 6 in the morning, the empty arena, the clean surface. I didn't witness this. He told me about it obliquely, in pieces, across several conversations. I reconstructed it from those pieces, from what I know about how he moves and where he's most himself, and the reconstruction is accurate. I know it's accurate because when I read it back I can see him there. That is how I know a piece is working. When I can see the person in it. I write the hockey sections first because they are the clearest. 6 years of performance data. His positioning maps, his zone exit percentages, his penalty kill numbers. I have talked to his coaches, his teammates, 2 analytics specialists who track defensive metrics for a third-party firm. I have watched 47 hours of game footage across 3 seasons, isolating his shifts, building a picture of how he thinks on the ice. The resulting section is the best pure sports writing I have ever done. I know this while I'm writing it, the way you sometimes know during rather than after. It is precise and image-dense and it will make people who don't understand hockey understand exactly why he matters to the teams he plays on. I read it back 3 times. I delete one sentence that was too clever and keep everything else. Then I open a new document and stare at it. The personal sections are the problem. This is what I have. Things I observed. Things he said, on record, across our weeks together. The way he positions himself in rooms so he can see all exits. The silence he is capable of that doesn't feel like absence, it feels like attention, like he's giving you the whole of his focus and just not filling it with noise. The night in the press box. What he told me about Elsa. The way he said it, looking at the ice, not looking for anything in return. The restaurant in Chicago. Arvo part. The press pass. What I told him without meaning to, and the specific quality of his silence after, not discomfort, not pivot to the next topic. Just the space he left for what I'd said to be what it was. I could write all of this. It would make the best profile of my career, and I know that with the same certainty I know my own name. I write 3 paragraphs. I delete 2 of them. I keep the third, read it 4 times, and delete it also. The second document opens itself. Not literally, I open it, I make the choice, I create a new file and don't give it a name. I just start writing. This draft is different. It doesn't sound like a profile. It sounds like notes written by someone who has been paying close attention to a person and doesn't know yet what to do with what they've noticed. I write about the shelf of books. The Hemingway. The way his apartment is arranged with the same logic as his game, everything positioned for function, nothing extra, but the function reveals something about what he values. Space. Quiet. The things that let him think. I write about Chicago. The restaurant, the way he asked about my first game, the question that nobody had ever thought to ask me, which I answered before I decided whether to. I write about the ice, the 3 seconds, the words that were and weren't about the fall. I write, he positions himself between people and potential harm without appearing to notice he's doing it. In the gala, when home cornered me. In the Chicago crowd after the post-game press moved too fast. At practice when the equipment cart came through the corridor. Always with the same quality, not aggressive, not showy. Just there. I write, he doesn't waste words. Most people fill silence with the first thing available. He doesn't fill it at all. He lets it exist and then says the thing he actually means. I have interviewed 400 people in my career. I can count on one hand the number who do that. I stop writing at 1 in the morning. I look at what I've done. Neither draft is the piece I need to file. The first one is technically excellent and emotionally hollow. The second one is the truest thing I've written in years and I can never send it to anyone. I save neither document. I go to bed angry at myself in the specific way of a writer who knows exactly what the story is and can't figure out how to tell it without becoming part of it. Cassie calls at 9:15 the next morning while I'm on my second coffee. "How's the piece going?" she says. "Fine." "How's the strictly professional arrangement going?" I look at my laptop, which is open on the table with both documents minimized. "Fine," I say. A pause. I count it. 1 second. 5. 10. Ava. Cassie. That pause was very long. I was drinking my coffee. You pause for coffee in a very specific way and that was not it. I put my mug down. I look out the window. The Minneapolis November is doing what it does, which is look like the inside of a gray thought. The piece is complicated, I say. The piece. Yes. The structure is, there are 2 things it could be and I haven't decided which one to write and both of them have problems. What kind of problems? A 45-second pause. I know it's 45 seconds because I can hear Cassie not saying anything on the other end, giving me room, the way she does, and I count it without meaning to the way you count things when you're avoiding what comes next. Professional ones, I say finally. Says Cassie. It's a journalism problem. About framing and proximity and Ava. It's really a craft issue more than Ava. Honey. I love you. What happened in Chicago? I look at my laptop. I slipped on ice and he caught me, I say. The silence on Cassie's end is different from Michael's. His silence is a room. Cassie's is a raised eyebrow made audible. And, she says. And nothing. He caught me. He said he had me. We walked back to the hotel. He said he had you. Cassie. I'm just repeating what you said. It was an ice situation. It was physical. Sure. It meant nothing. Of course. Cassie. I'm agreeing with you. You're agreeing with me in the tone you use when you're not agreeing with me. I just think, she says carefully, that 45 seconds is a very long time to take to tell me that nothing happened. I look at the 2 documents on my screen. The one with my name on it and the one without. I have to finish the piece, I say. I know you do, she says. Call me when you figure out which one you're writing. She hangs up. I open both documents. I look at them for a long time. Outside, the gray Minneapolis sky does not offer any guidance. I close the laptop. I go for a run. I come back. I open the laptop. I start writing a third draft. It is not the professional one or the honest one. It is something in between, and it is the most difficult sentence-by-sentence work I have done in 3 years, because every line requires me to know exactly where the line is between what I'm allowed to say and what I'm not. Between what I observed and what I felt. Between his story and ours. I write until midnight. I save it with a title this time. Lindqvist, Draft 3. I go to bed. I do not think about the ice. I do not think about his arms, or the 3 seconds, or the words that were and weren't about the fall. I think about the piece. Chapter 12. Jonah's Truth. Michael's POV. Jonah finds me after the morning skate. Not in the locker room, where there are 12 other people and the ambient noise of a team moving through its post-practice routines. He finds me in the corridor outside the equipment room, where I've stopped to check a text from Marcus, and he comes around the corner with 2 cups of coffee from the machine at the end of the hall and the expression of a man who has decided to say something and has been working up to it for several days. He hands me a cup. I take it, because you take the coffee Jonah brings you. That is a law of the locker room. Walk with me, he says. We walk down the corridor toward the weight room, which at 11 in the morning is empty. He pushes the door open. We go inside. He sits on a bench. I stand. You like her, he says. No preamble. No softening. That is also a Jonah law. She's a journalist, I say. He looks at me. You said that the first time I asked. It was unconvincing then. I drink my coffee. It is bad coffee, from a machine that has not been serviced since the previous coach was here, and I drink it anyway because having something to do with my hands is useful right now. Liking her, I say carefully, doesn't change what this is. What is it? I think about the word I want. I have a very specific relationship with English. I have spoken it for 10 years, I am fluent, but there are moments where I need a beat longer than a native speaker to find the right word because the right word in Swedish doesn't have an exact English equivalent and I'm searching for the nearest thing. Controlled, I say. Jonah shakes his head. It's a slow shake, the kind that means he's not disagreeing with the word so much as the idea that the word applies. Nothing about the way you look at her is controlled, he says. I say nothing. Michael. I have played on the same team as you for 3 years. I have never once seen you watch anything the way you watch her move through a room. I'm situationally aware. It's a defensive habit. You clocked where she was standing every 12 minutes at that gala. I was. I counted, he says. Because I was curious how long it would take you to notice I was counting, and the answer is you never noticed because you were too busy checking on her. He drinks his coffee. I'm not saying this to give you a hard time. I'm saying it because you're my guy and I think you're in something you've already decided you can't be in and I don't want to watch you talk yourself out of it from the outside. The weight room is quiet. The fluorescent lights hum. Through the wall I can hear someone in the locker room, a door closing, Kem Peters' voice at a distance. She's leaving, I say. When the piece runs, the arrangement is over. She'll have access to whoever her next subject is. That's how it works. You could change how it works. She wouldn't. Have you asked? I look at him. Have you told her anything real, he says. Not about the profile. Not about the contract. Have you told her how you actually feel about any of this? The silence that follows is its own answer. Jonah finishes his coffee. He stands up. He puts a hand on my shoulder for exactly 2 seconds, the way hockey players do when the situation calls for more than words and less than a conversation. Think about it, he says, and walks out. I sit in the car for 25 minutes after everyone else has gone. The arena parking lot in the early afternoon is its own kind of empty, different from the midnight empty, different from the early morning. This is the daytime quiet of a place that's between things. I think about what Jonah said. Not the part about how I look at her, I've been managing that information since Chicago and I don't need to look at it more directly than I already have. The part one keep coming back to is the word he used. Controlled. I said it first. He rejected it. And the thing is, I know he's right. I have been very precise about the ways I've let this be what it is, the terms, the arrangement, the clear lines between the professional and the personal. I have been meticulous about those lines. And I still ended up catching her in Chicago, and saying what I said, and standing in the tunnel after a home win to ask about her second draft because I couldn't get to the elevator without going to find her first. That is not controlled. That is a defensive player who has been so focused on holding the line that he didn't notice the line had already moved. I think about the end of this. The peace filing. The contract signing. The moment when there's no arrangement left to maintain and no reason to arrange anything at all. And something happens in my chest. I don't have a word for it in English. In English the closest things are missing or loss, but both of those require the thing to already be gone, and she isn't gone, she's here, the arrangement is still running, and yet. In Swedish the word is saknad. It means the ache of missing something that is still present. The awareness of an ending before the ending arrives. The specific grief of standing in front of something good and knowing the clock on it is running and being unable to make yourself look away from the clock. Saknad. I have been feeling it for 2 weeks and I didn't name it until now, sitting in a parking lot in November with the engine off and the cold coming in. I start the car. Jonah is right. Nothing about the way I look at her is controlled. What I don't know yet is what I'm supposed to do about that. Chapter 13. Lars. Ava's POV. Michael texts me on a Tuesday afternoon. My father is in town. He wants to meet you. I read it standing in the coffee shop near my office, waiting for my order, and I read it 3 times because the sentence has several implications I need to rank by urgency. The first, his father is here, unannounced, which Michael mentioned is Lars Lindqvist's signature move. The second, his father wants to meet me, which is either a natural consequence of the coverage or something more, and I don't yet know which. The third, and the one I spend the longest on, Michael is telling me this the same afternoon it's happening, which means he is either very comfortable with my presence in this situation or not comfortable at all and handling it by keeping the warning window as small as possible. I type back, when? Tonight if you're free. Dinner at my place. I look at my calendar. I look at my half-finished coffee. I look at the ceiling of the coffee shop, which offers nothing useful. I'll be there at 7. I spend the drive over reminding myself that this is work. Meeting a subject's family is not unusual. It is, in fact, good for a profile, background, context, the person in the frame of where they came from. This is a professional development. I believe this completely until I ring the buzzer and the intercom crackles and a voice that is not Michael says, yes. Just the word. Flat. Waiting. Ava Sinclair, I say. A pause. The door buzzes open. Lars Lindqvist is standing in the middle of his son's apartment when I come in, and the first thing I notice is that he takes up space differently from Michael. Michael moves through rooms with precision, taking exactly the room he needs and leaving the rest alone. Lars stands like he arrived in a space and the space adjusted around him. He is taller than I expected. His hair is mostly gray. He is looking at me with the evaluating stillness of someone who has spent 40 years watching young athletes walk through a door and deciding in the first 10 seconds what kind of player they are. I am not an athlete and I am being evaluated anyway. Michael is at the stove. He glances over his shoulder when I come in. Ava. Then, toward his father, Ava Sinclair. From the Rinkside Report. Lars looks at me for a long moment. You're the journalist, he says. Yes. Mickey doesn't trust journalists. I know. Another pause. His expression doesn't change but something in it recalibrates, the way expressions do when the answer you get is not the answer you were testing for. He trusts you, he says. He says it the way Michael says things, flat, final, delivered as a fact that has already been established and doesn't require discussion. Then he turns back to the bookshelf, which he was apparently examining when I arrived, and picks up the Hemingway. I stand in the kitchen doorway and I think, when did that happen? Not as a question I'm avoiding. As a genuine one. Because Lars is right, I can feel the truth of it the way you feel things that have been true for a while before you said them out loud, and I don't know the exact moment it shifted from Michael tolerating my presence to something that could be called trust. The press box, maybe. The night he came without being asked and told me about Elsa without being asked. Or Chicago. The way he listened when I told him about my father, giving the story exactly the room it needed and not 1 inch more. Or before that. The parking lot. 3 times out of 4 it's a tell. The 4th time it's a fake. Sit, Lars says, gesturing toward the couch without looking up from the Hemingway. He'll be another 15 minutes. He always says 10 and it's always 15. From the stove, without turning around, it will be 10 minutes. Lars turns a page. I sit. Dinner is pasta and the kind of conversation that happens when 3 people who don't fully know each other are being careful in different directions. Lars asks me about my work, not conversationally, the way people make small talk about jobs, but with the specific precision of someone who wants to understand what you actually do and how you do it. I answer him straight, the way I'd answer any source, and after about 20 minutes I realize he's been testing something and I've apparently been passing, because he starts asking the follow-up questions instead of the opening ones. He asks about my father. I don't know how he knows. Michael hasn't told him, I'm certain of that, but Lars is 63 years old and has read athletes his entire life, and he has apparently also learned to read the people around athletes, because he asks about my father the way you ask about something you've already partially assembled from available evidence. He covered hockey, I say. And then he didn't. And then he didn't. Lars nods. He drinks his wine. He looks at Michael, who is looking at his plate with the controlled expression of a man who is listening to everything and has decided not to involve himself. Fathers leave marks, Lars says simply. Whether they mean to or not. Neither Michael nor I say anything to that. After dinner, Michael clears the plates and Lars walks to the window and looks at the lake, and I make the decision to refill my water glass from the kitchen tap because I need to be somewhere that isn't the living room for 30 seconds. Standing at the sink, I hear them. Lars's voice, low but not lowered. The walls in the apartment carry sound. She's good for you. Michael says something I can't catch. Short. I'm not asking what the arrangement is. I know what the arrangement is. Marcus explained it. A pause. I'm asking what it's become. Michael's answer is too quiet. I don't move. I hold my water glass. You've been defending your whole life, Mickey. Lars's voice is not unkind. It has the quality of a man saying something he's been holding for some time, choosing the moment carefully. On the ice, off it. Since Elsa, more so. Defense is good. Defense wins games. But you cannot win a life by defending alone. Another pause. This woman, she came into your space and she reads everything in it and she keeps choosing not to use it against you. Do you understand how rare that is? The quiet that follows is long enough that I put my water glass down. Then Lars, clearly moving toward the window, you always were better at defending than attacking. On the ice and off it. Try scoring for once, son. I pick up my glass. I walk back to the living room. Neither of them looks guilty, because neither of them knows I heard. Or if Lars knows, he doesn't show it, which amounts to the same thing. I stay another 40 minutes. I help clear the last of the table. Lars shakes my hand at the door with the same flat assessment he applied at the beginning, but different now, recalibrated again, and I know he's recalibrated because he says, "Good writer." I look at him. "Thank you. Mickey said so. I looked up your work." He was right. He goes back inside. Michael walks me to the elevator. We stand at the door while I wait for it. He's not what I expected, I say. He never is. He said you trust me. The elevator arrives. I step in. Michael puts his hand on the door to hold it. He wasn't wrong, he says. He lets the door go. It closes. I ride down 14 floors with Lars's voice in my head. She keeps choosing not to use it against you. I get home and I sit at my kitchen table for a long time without opening my laptop. And then I think, is that all it is? The absence of harm? Or have I been choosing something else, and just not named it yet? Chapter 14. The Almost. Michael's POV. The game goes to overtime. It shouldn't. We're the better team tonight and everyone in the building knows it, the kind of game where the score doesn't reflect what's happening on the ice, where we've been carrying the play for 50 minutes and somehow it's tied. Cam Peters hits the post in the second. Jonah draws a penalty in the third that we don't convert. The arena is electric with the specific frustration of a crowd watching a result that should have happened already not happen yet. I block 3 shots in the third period. The last one I don't fully get in front of, it catches my shin pad and deflects wide, and for a second the crowd does the sharp collective thing it does when a scoring chance disappears, and I skate it off and get back in position. In overtime Jonah scores on a deflection off a point shot that bounces perfectly, exactly the kind of ugly, fortunate goal that makes you understand that hockey is partly skill and partly the universe deciding when it feels like cooperating. The buzzer. The light. 19,000 people making the sound they make for a home win in overtime. I put my glove up. I tap Jonah's helmet. I skate toward the bench. The locker room afterward is the loosened kind, not wild, not champagne, just the particular quality of a room full of men who did a hard thing and know it. People showering, someone's music from the back of the stall row, Cam Peters narrating the overtime sequence to anyone who'll listen. I shower. I dress. I check my phone. Nothing from Marcus. Nothing from Ava, which means she's still in the press box filing, which means she's still here. I know before I decide to go that I'm going to go. She's in the second row, laptop open, the arena emptying out below her. She looks up when she hears the door. She doesn't look surprised exactly. More like she was somewhere else and is coming back. Good game, she says. Come on, I say. She looks at her screen. At me. Something in the quality of my voice, not a request, not a command, something I don't have a word for either, makes her close the laptop without asking where. She follows me out. The player tunnel at 11:15 on a win night is not fully empty. There's a facilities crew at the far end breaking down some equipment, 2 or 3 people moving through with carts, but the mouth of it, where the ice opens up, is clear. The work lights are on, the low blue-white of the maintenance setting, and the ice below is still marked from the game. Nobody has cleaned it yet. I stop at the opening. She stops beside me. We look at the ice. She doesn't ask why I brought her here. That is one of the things I have understood about her over these weeks, she doesn't fill silences with questions just to be filling them. She lets a thing be what it is and waits to see what it becomes. I have been thinking about the second draft for 5 days. Since I walked past her screen during a practice break and saw the document she closes whenever I get close, the one with no title in the tab bar. I've seen the first draft, the one she sends me, the professional one, which is exceptional and also not the whole truth, and I know it isn't the whole truth because I know what the whole truth looks like when it's been set aside. What do you write in the second draft, I say. She goes completely still. Not the stillness of someone startled. The stillness of someone who has been found. What, she says. There are 2 documents. I've seen your screen when I've come up behind you. The one you send me to review, the one with your name in the title, that's not the first thing you write. I look at the ice. There's another one. No title. You close it when I get close. A long silence. I don't know what you're. You do. Another silence. Longer. I hear her exhale, not dramatically, just the breath of someone who has been holding a position and is deciding whether to hold it one more second or put it down. Things I haven't decided yet, she says. What kind of things? Things about the piece. About, she stops. Starts again. Things I've noticed that I don't know how to use yet. About me. She doesn't answer. Which is its own answer. I turn toward her. Just slightly. Enough. Tell me one, I say. She looks at the ice. Then she looks at me, and her expression does the thing it does sometimes, the fast internal negotiation, the door opening and closing, except this time it stays open a half-second longer than usual. You position yourself, she says quietly, between people and whatever might hurt them. You do it without deciding to. At the gala. In Chicago after the game. The corridor the first night, the equipment cart. A pause. You don't even notice you're doing it. I look at her. That's in the second draft, she says. I don't know if it goes in the piece. Why not? Because, she stops. Her jaw moves slightly. Because if I write it in the piece it becomes information about you, and right now it's something else. The tunnel is very quiet. The facility's crew has moved further away. The arena around us is the big, hollow, after-game quiet that I have stood inside 100 times and which has never felt like this before. I step closer. One step. The distance between us goes from professional to something that has no professional name, and she doesn't move back. She holds her position the way she holds all positions, steady, deliberate, having made the decision to hold it. Her eyes are on mine and there is 1 inch of decision between us and nothing. My phone buzzes. We both hear it. I don't move for a full second. Then I reach into my pocket. Marcus. Media outside, they want the couple shot. Now. I look at the screen. I look at her. She looks at the ice. Her chin lifts slightly, a breath taken and released. She straightens her press badge, the small automatic gesture, the professional armor going back on, and when she looks up again the door in her expression is closed. Let's go, she says. I follow her out of the tunnel and into the corridor and through the side exit into the press area, where the cameras are waiting and Marcus is somewhere in the back looking relieved. The lights hit us. I move to her side. My hand goes to the small of her back, positioned, appropriate, the move we have done before for photographs that have nothing to do with photographs. And then my thumb moves. Just once. A small arc, barely a centimeter, against the fabric of her jacket. Not planned. Not a decision I made. The way you sometimes reach for something in your hand is already moving before your mind catches up with what it's doing. She doesn't look at me. She doesn't move away. She smiles for the cameras with the practiced ease of someone who has been performing composure for years, and I stand beside her with my hand at her back and my thumb pressed still now, holding the centimeter it found, and I think about the tunnel and the inch and the words I said to her in Chicago that were and weren't about the ice. The cameras fire. The moment exists in 10 photographs before it's over. Chapter 15. Britta. Ava's POV. I find it at 7:12 in the morning, still in bed, phone in hand, doing the thing I do every day before I'm fully awake, checking the overnight coverage. The headline is in Swedish. I don't read Swedish. I read the byline, a publication I recognize from Michael's Career Archive, a major sports outlet out of Stockholm, and then I run the headline through a translation tool and I sit up in bed and I read it 3 times. He was never really there, Michael Lindqvist's ex-girlfriend speaks out. Her name is Britta Nyland. I've seen it once, in a 3-line item from 3 years ago, a brief tabloid blip that said the Frost defenseman and a Swedish lifestyle blogger had parted ways. That was the whole story. Nobody followed up because Michael never gave them a reason to follow up. She is giving them a reason now. I get out of bed. I make coffee. I read the article twice in the original Swedish with a translation tool running alongside it, cleaning the syntax as I go, because I need to understand exactly what it says before I understand what it means. What it says, he was present in body and absent in everything else. He used the relationship for privacy, not connection. He kept her at a distance she didn't understand was intentional until she was already inside it. He never let her in. What it means, she is not wrong, and that is the part that makes my chest do something I need to put down and examine later. She is not wrong because I have watched him build the same wall with everyone around him for months. I understand the architecture of it from the inside now. I have watched him choose silence over disclosure, distance over risk, a fortress over the vulnerability of being known. What Britta Nyland does not say, because she couldn't have known it, that the wall has a door in it. That I have been through it. That in a press box in October, and a restaurant in Chicago, and a tunnel after an overtime win, I have seen what exists on the other side. She doesn't know that. She wrote what she knew. And what she knew was a man who never let her. I read it a 3rd time and think about what Jonah said, she was before Elsa. He was already closed then. He got more closed after. Then I look at the engagement numbers on the English translation already posted by a hockey aggregate site, and I stop thinking about Britta Nyland entirely. By 9 o'clock it's everywhere. By 10 o'clock the commentary has found me. The first post I see is from an account I don't recognize, is at ringside. Ava just the next chapter in the Lindqvist PR handbook. His ex says he uses relationships for optics. Interesting timing for a spontaneous profile piece. Then another, the Puck Bunny thing is making more sense now. Not a love story, a press strategy. Then one from a sports media account with 40,000 followers that I know, that I have respected, that I have quoted in my own pieces. Sources close to the situation suggest the Lindqvist-Sinclair relationship may have been coordinated from the start to offset a difficult contract negotiation. We're looking into it. I put my phone face down on the counter. I pick it up again because I'm a journalist and I don't look away from things just because they're pointed at me. My notifications are full. Not all of it is cruel. Some of it is curious. Some of it is people defending me, people I know professionally, people who know my work. But the word is out there now, and the word is manufactured. Staged. Fake. Which is, technically, accurate. Which is the part one have been not examining since Chicago, and which I need to examine now, today, because Derek Voss has just texted me, office. Now. Derek's smile when I walk in is the worst thing I've seen all week, and I've had a bad week. He's got two monitors open. Both of them showing coverage. The engagement numbers are running in a side tab and they are, objectively, staggering. Sit down, he says. I sit. Britta Nylund's piece has been picked up by 12 English-language outlets as of this morning. The angle, Lindqvist using relationships for PR, the current relationship manufactured, is getting significant traction. He folds his hands on his desk. We have a decision to make. We don't have a decision, I say. I have a profile to finish. The profile as planned is no longer the story. He says it calmly, the way Derek says things he has already decided. The story now is whether what you've been doing is journalism or participation. Whether you're the reporter or the subject. Whether any of this was real. I look at him. This is the piece, he says. Not the long-form profile. This. First person, your voice, the full inside account. Was it staged? Were you being used? What did you actually find out about Michael Lindqvist over the last 8 weeks? Tell the truth. I'm quiet for a moment. Which truth, I say. He smiles. Whichever one gets the most traffic. I look at him for a long time. Long enough that his smile shifts slightly, not disappears, but adjusts, like he's recalculating. I'll think about it, I say. You have 48 hours, he says. After that Tom writes it with whatever he can find publicly, and you're off the beat. I stand up. I pick up my bag. 48 hours, I say. I leave before he can add anything else. I make it home at noon. I put my bag down by the door. I take my coat off and hang it up. I put the kettle on. I take it off again because I don't actually want tea, I just needed something to do with my hands. I look at my story wall. His card is still in the center. Michael Lindqvist in my own handwriting, pinned exactly where the most important story goes. I sit down on my kitchen floor. Not on a chair. On the floor, back against the cabinets, knees up, which is not something I do. I am a person who sits at tables and desks and on couches and in press boxes. I am a person who has a posture, who has a professional bearing, who does not sit on kitchen floors. I am sitting on my kitchen floor. Because the arrangement is collapsing. Because my career is sitting in Derek Voss's hands right now, and the only thing between me and a very bad outcome is a piece I don't know how to write. Because Britta Nylund said things that are true about the men on my story wall and I want to argue with her and I can't, not entirely, not from the outside. And because the feeling I've been managing since Chicago, the one I told Cassie was a craft issue, a professional complication, a framing problem, has a name I haven't said out loud yet, and sitting on my kitchen floor at noon seems like the moment to say it. I have been lying to everyone. I have been lying to Derek about the nature of the access. I have been lying to Cassie about the nature of the complication. I have been lying to Marcus, in a general sense, about whether the arrangement is still an arrangement. The worst part, the part one I'm sitting on the kitchen floor to face, is that I'm not sure when I started lying to myself. When he came to the press box. When he told me about Elsa. When he asked about my first game and then didn't fill the silence after I answered. When he stepped forward in front of Garrett Home and said she earned the access like it was the simplest fact in the room. When he said I've got you, and I stood with my back against his chest for 3 full seconds, and it wasn't about the ice and we both knew it. I put my head back against the cabinet. The arrangement was supposed to be clean. Terms and conditions. A handshake across a coffee shop table. 2 professionals solving 2 separate problems with 1 shared solution. I look at the index card in the center of my story wall. I am not solving a problem. I haven't been for a long time. My phone buzzes. Cassie. I stare at it until it stops. Then I get up off the floor. I wash my hands. I make actual coffee. I open my laptop and look at the 2 documents that have been sitting minimized for weeks, the professional one and the honest one, and I think about what Derek said. Which truth? The one that gets the most traffic is not the one I'm going to write. The question is whether I'm brave enough to write the other one. I close the laptop. I pick up my phone. I type 1 message. We need to talk. Tonight, if you can. I send it before I change my mind. His reply comes back in 4 minutes. I'll come to you. Chapter 16. Damage Control. Michael's POV. The article loads at 5:14 in the morning. I am already awake because I do not sleep well in November. Something about the dark and the cold, the combination of them, the way the season feels like a contraction. I have been awake since 4:30, standing at the kitchen window with a glass of water looking at the dark lake, when my phone buzzes with a news alert I didn't set up. Marcus set it up. He sets alerts for anything that mentions my name. Normally I ignore them. I opened this one because the preview shows Britta's name. I read it standing at the window in the dark. The Swedish is not difficult for me. The original is cleaner than any translation will be, and I read it in the original without the buffer of another language between me and what she's saying. She says I was absent. She says I was there without being there, present in physical terms and in every other way closed off and far away. She says she used to stand in the same room as me and feel like she was looking at someone through glass. She says she waited for months for me to let her in and then realized the door she was looking for wasn't going to open. I put the phone down on the counter. I look at the lake. She is not wrong. That is the thing I stand with for a long time, in the dark, in the kitchen, with the November cold pressing against the glass. She is not wrong because I was exactly what she described, during exactly the time she's describing. Elsa's situation had happened 4 months before Britta and I started seeing each other. I was building the fortress and I was building it fast and I used everything available to build it, including the relationship, including her. I am not proud of this. I've known I wasn't proud of it for 3 years, which is its own kind of weight to carry. What Britta doesn't say, because she stopped knowing me before it was true, is that the fortress has a crack in it now. That someone has been in my press box and my apartment and my locker room corridor and my tunnel, and at some point I couldn't mark on a calendar. I stopped constructing reasons for her to be there and started just wanting her there. She doesn't know that. She wrote the truth she had. I put the glass in the sink. I pick up my phone. I call Marcus. It rings 4 times. Michael. His voice is alert in the way of someone who has also been awake, also tracking the coverage. I've seen it. I'm already working on a response. We need to get ahead of. I'm firing you, I say. A pause. Michael. Not because of the article. Not because of how you've handled the profile situation. You've done your job. I keep my voice even. I'm firing you because what I have to do next is not something I should have an agent for. It's something I should do myself. If you're thinking about making a statement without. I'm not making a statement. Then what? Thank you, Marcus. I mean it. You've been good at this. I'll call you about contract logistics next week. I hang up. I stand in the kitchen for another minute. Then I call Jonah. He picks up on the second ring, which tells me he's awake and has also seen the article. Hey, he says. I need to tell Ava the truth. A pause. Short. Which truth, he says. All of it. Another pause. When he speaks again his voice has the specific quality it has when he's being careful on purpose. Meaning what, exactly? Meaning the contract. Why I agreed to the arrangement in the first place. What it was when it started and what it is now, which is not the same thing. I look at the window. The sky outside is beginning to go from black to the dark blue. That means 5:30. She's going to have to write something today. Whatever she writes, I want her to write it with the full information. Not the version I've been allowing her to have. And the other part? What other part? Jonah is quiet for long enough that I know he's choosing his words. The part where you tell her how you feel, he says. Not as context for the article. Just as a person talking to another person. I look at the lake. The first thin line of light is starting at the horizon. Yes, I say. That part also. Okay, Jonah says. He says it simply, no fanfare, the way he says things when the situation is serious enough that it doesn't need commentary. You want me to come with you? No. Thought so. Call me after. I will. I hang up. I look at my phone. I look at the lake. I look at the shelf with the Hemingway on it. I have spent 6 years building something very sturdy and very careful and very specifically designed to keep people from getting close enough to matter. I built it for good reasons. The reasons are still good. And none of that changes the fact that she is already on the other side of it, and has been for a while, and I let her in, and the only honest thing left to do is tell her that. I text her first, so she knows I'm coming. I'll come to you. Then I put on my coat and I drive across the city in the early morning dark, and for the first time in years I don't rehearse what I'm going to say. Some things you can't script. Some things you have to let exist first and then say what they are. She taught me that, whether she meant to or not. Chapter 17. The second draft. Ava's POV. He buzzes at 7:40. I'm in old clothes, the gray sweatshirt I've had since grad school, the jeans I wear when I'm not going anywhere, and the apartment is the specific kind of disorganized that happens when you've been sitting on the kitchen floor for 2 hours followed by 45 minutes of pacing followed by another 20 minutes of staring at a laptop without opening it. I look at my reflection in the dark window for half a second. Then I buzz him in, because there's no version of this where I don't. He comes in the way he enters all rooms, quietly, taking in the space before he takes up any of it. He's in a dark coat, the cold still on him, and he looks at my apartment the way I looked at his the first time, reading it. I watch him take in the story wall. His eyes move across it, the rows of clippings, the date order, the names. They find the center. His index card. His name, in my handwriting, pinned exactly where the most important story goes. He looks at it for a moment. He doesn't say anything about it. He takes his coat off, folds it over the back of my couch, and sits down. Not on the end. In the middle, like he's staying. I sit in the chair across from him. My laptop is on the table between us, closed. The article, I say. Yes. Britta. Yes. Is she wrong? He looks at me. Not with evasion. With the directness that is his specific quality, the way he meets things straight on. About who I was when we were together, he says. No. She's not wrong. I nod slowly. I was expecting this and it still lands with weight. I was protecting myself after Elsa, he says. I was protecting her from the situation I'd put her in, and I was building everything I could between myself and the outside, and I used the relationship for that. I used Britta for that, without saying so, without giving her the information she needed to decide if that was acceptable. He pauses. That was wrong. I've known it was wrong. Why didn't you end it before she had to? Because it was useful. He says it without flinching. That is the honest answer, and it's not a good one. The apartment is quiet. Outside, a car goes by. The arrangement, I say. With me. That was the same logic. At the start. He looks at his hands, then back at me. I agreed to it because of the contract and Marcus told me to, and the photo gave us a way in and it solved a problem. That was true for approximately 3 weeks. And then you came to my practices and you didn't look at me like a fan or a story, and you talked to Pete Halverson for 4 minutes and got him to laugh, and I watched you do it and I couldn't stop thinking about it. He says this the way he says everything, flat, measured, each word put down in its exact place. That was not the arrangement. I don't say anything. The press box, he says. I came because I wanted to be there. Not for a photo. Not for Marcus. I came because I wanted to sit next to you in the empty arena, and that was not a thing I was supposed to want. Michael. Chicago. The dinner. What I said on the sidewalk. He looks at me steadily. None of that was the arrangement. I know you know that. I do know that. I have known it since it happened, and I have been filing it under professional complications for 2 months, and the filing system is full. The article is going to run regardless, I say. My voice is steadier than I expect. Derek wants a first-person piece. The real story. What this was and whether any of it, I stop. He wants me to tell the truth. What is the truth? I look at my laptop. I don't want to run a narrative, he says. I know that's what we agreed to do. I don't want to do it anymore. The room is so quiet. I reach across the table and I open my laptop. I turn it toward him. The document with no title. The second draft. All of it, the Hemingway, Elsa's photo, the press box, the parking lot, the way he listens, the way he positions himself between the people he cares about and whatever might come at them. Every observation I made and refused to file. Every true thing I wrote at 2 in the morning because the honest document was the only place I was allowed to put it. Read it, I say. He reads slowly. I get up and make coffee because I need somewhere to be while he reads it. I stand at the kitchen counter and listen to the silence of a person reading, the particular quality of a room with someone in it who is concentrating on something, and I watch the coffee brew and I do not think about what his face is doing. When the coffee is done, I pour 2 cups. I bring them back to the table. He's still reading. I sit down and wrap my hands around my mug and look out the window and wait. He finishes. He doesn't say anything immediately. He sits with it the way he sits with everything, the full beat, the real consideration, not the first thing available. Then he looks up. You saw me, he says. Something in my chest pulls tight. I'm a journalist. That's not why you wrote this. I look at my coffee mug. I look at the table. I look at the story wall with his card in the center, which I pinned there on the day we shook hands and which I haven't moved since. I don't answer. He reaches across the table. He closes my laptop. The click of it is very small and very loud at the same time. He looks at me. I know what's coming. I know it the way you know things when someone has decided something and the decision is already in the room with you. I know it and I don't move back, the way I didn't move back in the tunnel, the way I didn't pull away in Chicago. Because there is a point past which holding a position stops being composure and starts being cowardice, and I'm done being afraid of what's on the other side of this. I know, he says. And then he kisses me. Not quickly. Not with the caution of someone testing whether this is allowed. He has decided, and Michael Lindqvist does not act without deciding, and this is as deliberate as the way he skates, clean, committed, no wasted motion. I put my hand against his jaw. This is real. Not a parking lot photo. Not a staged gala exit. Not a thumb moving 1 centimeter against my jacket for the cameras. This is 2 people who have been telling each other with everything except words for 2 months, and running out of other ways to say it. When we pull back, he stays close. His forehead almost against mine. His eyes are the particular dark blue of ice under work lights, and I've been cataloging what they look like since October without letting myself know that's what I was doing. I have to write the piece, I say. My voice comes out quieter than I intended. I know. It has to be true. I know. Everything in that document. Everything I noticed. Everything I stop. Write it, he says. All of it. I look at him. You haven't read the last 3 pages. He picks up his coffee. He leans back. He looks at my laptop. Turn it back around, he says. I open it. I turn it toward him. He reads the rest. Outside, Minneapolis does what it does in December, which is get dark and cold and very still, and inside my apartment with the coffee going cold on the table and the story wall behind me and his name pinned in the center of it, I watch Michael Lindqvist read the truest thing I've ever written about anyone. When he finishes the last page, he closes the laptop himself. File it, he says. Derek won't. File it anyway. He says it the same way he says everything. Flat. Certain. Already decided. I look at him for a long moment. Then I reach across the table and I open the laptop and I move the document into my drafts folder and I don't title it Background Do Not File. I title it Lindqvist. Okay, I say. He picks up his coffee. He looks at my story wall. You put me in the center, he says. I put the most important story in the center. He's quiet for a moment. Then, without looking away from the wall, when did you decide? I think about it. The honest answer. The day I pinned the card, I say. I just didn't know what I was deciding yet. He looks at me. The apartment is quiet and warm and outside the city is going about its business in the dark, and none of that is what I'm paying attention to. Stay, I say. Chapter 18. Real. Michael's POV. The first thing I notice when I wake up is that her apartment faces east. I don't know why I didn't register this before. I've been here twice and both times it was evening when I arrived. But now it's 6:15 in the morning and the December light is coming through the window at the angle that means the sun is just clearing the buildings across the street, and it lands across the foot of the bed in a long pale rectangle, and I lie there watching it for a moment before I remember what day it is. Then I remember. The world looks the same. The ceiling of her bedroom is white. The apartment sounds like a Minneapolis morning, some distant traffic, a door in the building below. Her coffee maker, which she set last night before we went to sleep, is making the first sounds of doing what it was programmed to do. It looks the same. It isn't. She's already up. I find her in the kitchen, standing at the counter, already dressed, already looking at her phone. She hears me come in and she glances up and something crosses her face, real and unguarded, the expression she usually has 1 full second to manage before she lets me see it, and for that 1 second it's just her, no armor, no professional bearing, no managed calm. Then the second passes. Coffee's ready, she says. She puts the phone down. She opens the cabinet. She gets a mug. I sit at the table. She pours. She brings it over. She sits across from me, and then she does the thing I've been watching her do in high-pressure situations since October, which is pick up speed. Words as forward motion. Language as a thing to hide behind. Okay, she says. The piece. I need to get it to Derek by Friday, which is 3 days. I have the draft, it needs another pass, the structural question is whether we lead with the Elsa section or hold it until the second act. I'm thinking second act. It earns more if you've established the career arc first. She's looking at the table as she talks, not at me. Publicly, we probably need to make a statement before the piece runs or the framing becomes reactive rather than. Ava. She stops. Not gradually. Immediately, mid-sentence, the way you stop when you hear your name said in a specific way. She looks at me. I'm not going anywhere, I say. The kitchen is quiet. The coffee maker finishes and goes still. She studies me. It's the reporter's look, the one she uses when she's deciding how much to believe something, not hostile, not warm, just precise, the look of someone who has been lied to by enough sources to know the weight of a statement before she accepts it. That's easy to say, she says. I know. I pick up my coffee. I'm saying it anyway. Another silence. She's still looking at me with the assessing quality, and I let her look, because she needs to see whatever she's looking for, and the only way that happens is if I stay here and don't make it easier for her. My father said things like that, she says finally. It comes out quiet and direct. Not an accusation. A fact she's putting on the table because it belongs there. He was very good at saying the things you were supposed to say. I know. You can't know. You don't. I know you were 16 and he left and you've been covering hockey to prove it didn't break you, and it didn't break you, but it left something very specific in its place. I say it without looking away from her. I know because you told me, in Chicago, and I've been thinking about it since. She's quiet. I'm not your father, I say. I'm not Britta's version of me either. I'm telling you what I mean. A pause. I know that doesn't guarantee anything. I'm not asking you to just take the word. I'm asking you to let me show you. Something in her face moves. The managed composure doesn't fall exactly, she doesn't let things fall, that's not how she works, but it shifts. Recalibrates. The door opens the half-second that it opened in the tunnel. Okay, she says. Just the word. But she means it, and we both know she means it, and that's enough for now. She picks up her coffee. She looks at her phone. Then she puts the phone back down and looks at me instead, and when she speaks again she's not building anything with the words. The piece leads with the career arc, she says. Elsa holds until Act 2. I trust you, I say. She looks at me for one more second. I know, she says. That's what makes this hard. By 9 o'clock 3 things have happened. The first, Britta's article has been picked up by 2 American sports networks and is trending on social media under a hashtag I'm not going to look at directly. The second, my phone has 17 missed calls, 12 of which are from Marcus, who I've already fired but who apparently considers that a soft boundary. The other 5 are from a number I don't recognize, which turns out to be a journalist from a network affiliate who got my number from somewhere I need to think about later. The third, Derek Voss has sent Ava a message that reads, in its entirety, first-person piece. End of week. Or Tom writes it with what he has. The choice is yours. She shows me the message without comment. I read it. I hand the phone back. He thinks the choice is yours, I say. It is. Only if you let him make it. I look at her. File the piece you wrote. Not the one he asked for. The real one. He'll kill it. Maybe. Then you pitch it somewhere else. Michael, I've worked at that outlet for. I know. I keep my voice level. I'm not telling you it's a small thing. I'm telling you that piece is the best thing you've written and it deserves to run as what it is. Not as whatever Derek Voss needs it to be this week. She looks at the table. The contract decision is in 10 days, she says. I know. If the piece runs before then and it goes badly. Ava. I wait until she looks at me. The contract has nothing to do with this anymore. I want the extension because I want to stay in this city. That reason hasn't changed. A pause. The reason I want to stay in this city has. She stares at me. Then she looks back at her laptop. I need to finish the piece, she says. I know. You should probably go home. I write better alone. I know that too. I stand up. I get my coat. She's already opening the laptop, her shoulders dropping into the particular posture she has when she's writing, forward, focused, the rest of the world going quiet around her. I put my hand on her shoulder as I pass. Not for a camera. Not for Marcus or Derek or anyone watching. She puts her hand briefly over mine. Then I leave her to write. Chapter 19. The piece I actually want to write. Ava's POV. I write for 14 hours straight. Not without stopping. I stop for coffee, for water, wants to eat a piece of toast standing at the counter because sitting down feels too much like a break and I can't afford a break right now. But from 9 in the morning until 11 at night I am at my table with my laptop and the draft open and I write the truest thing I know how to write. This is what I know how to do. This, specifically. Not the staged photos, not the managed narrative, not the implication game we've been playing since October. Reporting. The thing I came to this city to do, the thing I showed up for in press boxes from the time I was 16, the reason I spent 3 years building a wall of bylines and an index card system and a reputation for precision. I know how to see a person clearly and put it on the page. Michael Lindqvist gave me 8 weeks and I paid attention for all of them. The piece opens on the ice. Not the game ice, the 6 a.m. ice, the empty arena, the practice he runs alone before anyone else arrives. I wasn't there for it. He told me about it in week 3, answering a question about preparation habits, and he gave me exactly one sentence: I like to be on it before anyone else. I knew what that sentence was when I heard it. The opening paragraph is 6 lines. No wasted words. It puts you on the ice with him in the dark, alone, in a building that holds 19,000 people and is completely silent, and it asks the question the whole piece is built to answer: what does a man who has spent 6 years in the loudest industry in the world choose to do with the silence when nobody is watching? The answer is, he uses it to think. To prepare. to be exactly who he is without the performance of being anything. I write the hockey section from the notes I've built across 3 months, the positioning data, the defensive metrics, the coaches and teammates who understand what he contributes and could talk about it for hours. The section is strong. It's the foundation. But it's not the story. The story is in the next section, which I've titled, For My Own Purposes, The Door. I write about Elsa. Not in detail. I don't have her permission and I don't need her permission for what I'm doing, which is not using what Michael told me as exposure but as context. I write, 2 years ago, something happened to someone he loved because of who he is and what he does for a living. He responded the way a certain kind of person responds to having their world cracked open. He built a wall around what was left and he called it protection, and he was not entirely wrong. I write about what the wall looks like from the outside. The 12 on-record quotes in 6 years. The 32-word maximum. The way reporters have described him, closed, difficult, unreachable. The way the Frost's PR department has learned not to bring him to certain events. Then I write about what it looks like from the inside. I write about his apartment, the spare precise space of it, everything arranged for function. I write about the shelf of books, the worn Swedish spines, the single English title at the end. I don't say which book. Some things I keep. I write about the press box. I write, he came after a home game in October, still carrying the cold from the rink, and he sat down and he looked at the ice and he said, I stopped talking to press because of what happened. Not because I trust you. And then he got up and left before I could answer, which is exactly how trust works when someone has had very good reasons not to have it. It arrives before the permission, says its piece, and is out the door before you can decide what to do with it. I write about Chicago. Not the black ice. The dinner, what it felt like to be asked a question by someone who actually wanted the answer, and what it felt like to answer it, and how long it had been since those two things happened at the same time. I write the line from the second document, the one I put down at 2 a.m. in November. He positions himself between people and potential harm without appearing to notice he's doing it. I'm putting it in the piece. He told me to file everything. The last section I title, What Privacy Actually Costs. I write about what it means to be a private person in a public profession, not from his perspective but from the position of someone who watched it up close for 3 months. The way performance hollows things out. The specific exhaustion of being known for what you do rather than who you are. The thing nobody says about athletes who choose silence, that choosing silence is also a kind of performance, just one that faces inward instead of out. And I write, what changes a person is not the moment they decide to open the door. It's the moment they realize the door has been open for a while and they're still standing. I write it. I leave it. It's the truest line in the piece. I finish at 11:14. I read the whole thing straight through once, which is something I only do with pieces I trust. I change 4 words. I fix one factual error in the metrics section. I read it again. It is the best thing I have ever written. I know this without arrogance, the way you know things that are just true. I know it the way I knew the Derek piece was hollow and the unnamed second draft was honest. I know it because every sentence is load-bearing and none of them are there to protect me. I do not send it to Derek. I send it to Michael. With one line, read it when you can. All of it. Then tell me if it's right. I close my laptop. I go to bed. I don't sleep immediately. I lie in the dark and I think about the piece running. Not about Derek's reaction or the traffic numbers or what Tom Riley will say in the press box Monday morning. I think about the people who are going to read it and recognize something in it, the person who has been seen without their permission, the person who stopped talking because the cost got too high, the person who sat in a room with someone and felt for the first time that the silence between them was chosen and not empty. I think there are a lot of those people. I think that's why you write. My phone lights up at 12:47. Call me. I call him. He picks up immediately. He doesn't speak for a moment. I hear him breathing, the particular quality of someone who has just finished reading something that took them somewhere. File it, he says. Derek won't. File it anyway. I look at the ceiling. I think about 3 years of bylines. I think about the index card system and the wall and the story I came to this city to write and whether this is the one. Okay, I say. It's good, Ava. I know. A pause. A warm one. You kept the book, he says. I told you. Some things I keep. Another pause. File it, he says again. Not urgently. The way he says things when he's already certain. Tomorrow, I say. First thing. Okay. Good night, Michael. Good night. I put the phone down. I look at the ceiling for a while. Then I reach over and I open my laptop and I file the piece. It's 12:53 in the morning and Derek Voss gets an email notification that Ava Sinclair has submitted her draft and it is not the piece he asked for. I close the laptop. I sleep. Chapter 20. Elsa. Michael's POV. She calls at 7 the next morning. I'm on the ice for my solo session, or I was, until my phone buzzed in my jacket pocket where I left it at the boards, which I check out of habit because Elsa is in a different time zone and her calls come at unusual hours. It's 2 in the afternoon in Gothenburg. She's been awake for 8 hours. Whatever she has to say, she's had most of the day to decide to say it. I skate to the boards. I pick up the phone. Elsa. I read the draft. I am quiet for a moment. The empty arena is around me, the low lights, the clean ice. I've been working alone for 40 minutes. How did you? You sent it to me. Last night. Don't pretend you didn't. I look at the ice. I did send it to her. At 1 in the morning, after Ava and I hung up, I sat in my apartment with the piece still open on my phone and I read the Elsa section again, not the full detail she had every right not to share, but the careful outline of it, the way Ava wrote about what happened as shape rather than specifics, and I thought about Elsa not knowing it existed. That felt wrong. So I sent it. She kept the detail out, I say. I know. Her voice is even. She wrote about it with Mickey. She wrote about it with more care than anyone who was actually there. A pause. The part about why you stopped talking. The fortress. She understood it. She's a good writer. She's in love with you. The ice stretches out in front of me, smooth and white and unhelpfully silent. Elsa. And you with her. I'm not asking, I'm telling you what I read, and what I've been watching from 4,000 miles away for the last 2 months. I don't say anything. You sent me the draft, she says. That's not what you do with a journalist you hired. That's what you do with someone you want your sister to know. The thing about Elsa is that she has always been able to do this. Since we were children, she 2 years younger, half my height, completely unimpressed by my size or my silences. She always just walked up to the thing directly and said what it was. I used to find it irritating when I was 15. I don't find it irritating now. The contract decision is in 9 days, I say. I know about the contract. If the piece runs before then and the ownership reads it as Michael. Her voice shifts. Not hard, not impatient. The voice she uses when she's saying something she means with her whole self. Forget the contract for 30 seconds. Not forever. 30 seconds. I hold the phone. The arena is quiet. Are you happy, she says. A very long pause. It's a simple question. It shouldn't require this much space to answer. Happy. Am I? A person sitting in an empty arena at 7 in the morning having just read the most accurate account of himself he has ever encountered, written by a woman who came to his apartment in old clothes and opened a second document and said, read it. A person who fired his agent and called his teammate and drove across the city in the dark to say the things that didn't have a script. Yes, I say. The word comes out quieter than I intended. But it's the right word, the exact right word, and I know it's the right word because it doesn't require anything else after it. Okay, Elsa says. And I hear in her voice the same quality I heard when she was 9 years old and I came home from my first hockey tournament with a medal and she looked at it and looked at me and said, good. Just that. Like she'd always known I could and was glad I'd gotten around to it. Then don't ruin it. I'm not planning to. You have a history of not planning to and doing it anyway. With Britta. With everyone. With me. The 2 years since the restaurant. A pause. You've been protecting me from a distance because you thought that was the only way to keep me safe. I've been asking you to just talk to me. I look at the ice. She's going to write about it, I say. Not the details. But it's in the piece. I know. I read it. A pause. She asked permission. Did you know that? I stop. She sent me a message 3 weeks ago, Elsa says. Through the Frost's official contact form, addressed to me, not to you. She said she wanted to include a brief mention of an incident involving your sister as context for your media choices, and she wanted to ask before she wrote anything. Another pause. I said yes. I should have told you. I didn't because I wanted to see what she did with it. I have nothing to say to that for a long moment. She got it right, Elsa says quietly. She got me right. 2 sentences and she got me more right than the people who were actually there. Her voice does something careful. That's who she is, Michael. That's what she does. She pays attention and she keeps the things that are supposed to be kept. I think about the Hemingway. She put it back without saying a word. I know, I say. So don't make her prove it again. Don't build new walls because the old ones came down and that's unfamiliar. Her voice is direct now, the voice she uses when she's decided she's said enough and is making the last point count. Let it be real. Let yourself have something real, Mickey. You're 31 years old. 29. I know how old you are. I'm using 31 for dramatic effect. I laugh. It comes out short and surprised, the way laughing does when you weren't expecting to. From Gothenburg, 2 in the afternoon, I hear Elsa do the same. Call me after the contract, she says. I will. And Michael. Yes. Tell her about the SACNAD. A pause. Not as a hockey thing. As a you thing. I look at the empty ice. The work lights. The unmarked surface of a morning that hasn't had a game on it yet. Okay, I say. We hang up. I stand at the boards for another minute. Then I step back onto the ice. I skate the rest of my solo session, the full hour, working the edges and the angles the way I've done every morning for 15 years. The arena is quiet and cold and completely mine. For the first time in 2 years, I don't feel like I'm defending it. Chapter 21. The press conference. Ava's POV. Derek calls me at 8:15 in the morning. I know from the timing what the call is. He doesn't call at 8:15 for good news. He calls at 8:15 when he's already at his desk and has already decided something and wants to deliver it before I've had enough coffee to argue effectively. I pick up anyway. The piece, he says. The piece, I say. It's not what I asked for. No. It's not the relationship angle. It's not first person in the way I outlined. It doesn't address the Brita situation or whether the access was compromised. It addresses whether the access was real. That's a different question. It's the same question to our readers. Then our readers are asking the wrong question, I say, and this piece gives them the right one. A pause. I hear him shift in his chair. Ava. You have 3 years of work here. Good work. I'm not asking you to burn it down. You're asking me to write something dishonest. I'm asking you to write something that serves the story the public is already following. The public is following the wrong story, I say. I was there. I know which one is true. The piece I filed is the true one. Rewrite it, he says. Put the relationship angle in the front. Frame it around the question everyone's asking. You can keep the hockey sections, the writing is excellent. Derek. But the personal angle needs to address whether you were used. Whether the profile was a setup. Whether. Derek. I keep my voice flat. Run the piece as written or reassign me. A longer pause this time. Don't make this harder than it needs to be, he says. I'm not making it hard. I'm making it clear. I look at my story wall. His index card in the center. You have until Friday. After that I'm taking it to the Athletic. I hang up before he can answer. I sit for a moment with the phone in my hand. 3 years. The byline wall behind me. Every piece I built this career on, one careful story at a time. I look at the index card. Then I pick up my bag and I go to the press conference. The Frost's press availability is in the media room attached to the practice facility, not the arena press room, the smaller one, 12 rows of chairs and a low podium with the team logo on the backdrop. I've been in this room 40 times. I know the sight lines, I know where the camera's set up, I know the corner near the door where you can stand with your recorder out and still hear everything without being in the shot. I take my corner. The availability is nominally about the upcoming road trip. 3 questions in, it becomes about something else. The question comes from a reporter I don't know, a freelancer, young, with the particular brand of confidence that comes from having nothing to lose and a direct angle to sell to whatever outlet will take it. Michael. Given Britta Nyloon's recent comments about the nature of your relationships, and the ongoing questions about whether your connection with Ringside Reports' Ava Sinclair was coordinated with your agent, can you address whether that relationship is genuine? The room goes still in the specific way rooms go still when someone says the thing everyone wanted to say and nobody else would. Michael is at the podium. He doesn't look at me. He doesn't look for Marcus, who isn't here because he was fired 3 days ago. He doesn't take the beat that public relations trained athletes take before they say something careful. He looks at the reporter. I'm a person who values his privacy, he says. What's between Ava and me is real. A pause, not hesitation, just breath. What she's writing about me is the truest thing anyone has written about me in my career. I hope you'll read it. The room stays still. So the rumors about the relationship being staged, the freelancer tries. There's nothing fake about it. 4 words. Flat. Final. The way he says things when he has decided and the deciding is done. The room breaks open. Questions from 6 directions. Someone near the front calling his name. A camera swinging to get the podium in frame. The particular controlled chaos of a press conference where the news just made itself. I press my recorder against my chest. I breathe. I've been in this room 40 times and I've never once heard the ambient noise go away. I always hear the shuffle and the whispers and the camera sounds and the hum of a small space with too many people in it. Right now I hear nothing. Just the sound of my own heartbeat and the replay of 4 words. There's nothing fake about it. Nobody is looking at my corner. Everybody is looking at the podium. I walk out the door. The corridor outside the media room is empty. I stand in it for a moment with my back against the wall and my recorder in my hand, and I wait for the feeling I'm having to become nameable. It takes about 30 seconds. What it is, relief so complete that my hands have gone slightly unsteady, which is not something that happens to me, and my eyes are doing something I'm going to classify as the bright particular feeling of having a thing you didn't know you were waiting for arrive all at once. He said it in a room full of cameras. No script. No agent. No arrangement. He just said it because it's true. I look at my phone. I find Derek Voss in my contacts. I dial. He picks up on the second ring. I assume you just watched the press conference, I say. A pause. I'm watching the clip now. It's already at 40,000 views. Run the piece as written, I say. Or I resign and take it to The Athletic. I keep my voice steady. Your call. The silence on his end is different from Michael's silence. Derek's silence is calculation. I can hear it working. 40,000 views in 10 minutes. A press conference answer that is already writing its own headline. A journalist whose access produced both the profile and the moment it just validated. Friday, he says. Friday, I say. As written. As written. He hangs up. I stand in the corridor with my phone in my hand and my recorder still pressed to my chest. Through the media room door I can hear the press conference continuing, the questions cycling through the usual roster of road trip logistics and game notes and the surface texture of professional hockey. Michael's voice, answering the ordinary things in the ordinary way, flat and precise and giving nothing extra. But he gave something in there. He stood at a podium and he gave something, in front of cameras and recorders and 30 reporters, and he didn't look at me first. He just said it. I push off the wall. I put my recorder in my bag. I walk down the corridor and out into the Minneapolis cold, and I think about how long I've been covering this sport and how many press conferences I've attended and how I have never once walked out of one feeling like this. Like the story I came here to write finally found its own ending. Chapter 22. After. Michael's POV. The piece runs on Friday. Derek Voss's name is nowhere near it, which is not an accident. The editor credit on the final version belongs to a deputy editor named Rena Park, who I've never met but who Ava says called her at 9 in the morning the day after the press conference and said, "This is extraordinary, can we talk about the structure?" They talked for 2 hours. The piece that ran is the one Ava wrote, with 4 small adjustments that were entirely about sentence-level precision. I know all of this because she told me. I know it the way I know most things about how the piece came together, not in real time, but after, in the specific texture of stories Ava tells when she's worked through something and is ready to let it be finished. I read the published version at 6:45 in the morning, the day it goes live, sitting at my kitchen table with the lake out the window and a coffee I haven't touched yet. I read it the way you read something that was written about you by someone who actually looked, which is to say carefully, the way you walk into a place after someone has rearranged it and you need to understand the new geography before you can move through it. She got everything right. Not just factually, I knew she'd gotten the facts right. I approved the factual review 3 days before it ran. Right in the larger sense, the shape of me. The reason for the silences. The cost they carried and what lifted when they didn't have to be the only option. The line she wrote that I read 4 times. What changes a person is not the moment they decide to open the door. It's the moment they realize the door has been open for a while and they're still standing. I put my phone down. I pick up my coffee. I look at the lake. The lake in December is frozen at the edges, the gray-white of fresh ice, and in the middle it's still dark water, and the combination of them looks like the end of something and the beginning of something, which is either a metaphor or just what Minnesota looks like in winter. My phone buzzes. Jonah. Have you seen the numbers? I hadn't. I look. The piece has been read 42,000 times in the first 3 hours. It's been shared by 3 major sports media accounts. A sports writer in New York whose byline I recognize from publications Ava mentioned months ago, someone whose judgment she said she trusts more than most, posted, "This is the best sports profile I've read in 5 years. Read it." I put the phone down again. Then I pick it up because Jonah has sent another message. Also the contract. The call from ownership comes at 10. I don't have an agent to take it, which I had thought about briefly and decided was fine. I answer it myself. The voice is Howard Pelletier, one of the 3 principal owners, a man I have exchanged approximately 8 words within 3 years. "Michael," he says. "We wanted to reach you before the official paperwork." Okay. The extension is approved. 4 years. The terms we discussed with Marcus last month. A pause. "We want you here. We should have made that clearer earlier." I appreciate that. "Your profile numbers," he says, and I hear something in his voice attempting warmth in the specific way of a person who spends most of his time in boardrooms, "are extraordinary. We've received more fan engagement around the Lindqvist profile in the last 12 hours than around any player content we've produced this season." "Her writing is excellent," I say. A beat. "It is. She's very good." "Yes," I say. "She is." We discuss the timeline for paperwork. We say our goodbyes. He sounds pleased in the way of a man who got a result he wanted and is choosing to call it a plan rather than luck. I hang up. I text Jonah, 4 years. His reply takes 11 seconds. "Told you. Score, don't just defend." I look at the message. Then I look at the lake. Then, for the first time in what feels like much longer than it's actually been, I laugh. It comes out real. Unguarded. The kind of laugh you can't produce on request, that arrives on its own when something is both funny and true at the same time, when the relief of a thing resolved runs into the absurdity of how long it took to resolve. 4 years. I pick up my coat. I text Ava. Contract signed. 4 years. Are you home? Her reply comes back fast. No. Come find me. Then, I'm at the rink. Of course she is. I go find her. Chapter 23. Everything I was too careful to say. Ava's POV. I'm in the press box when he finds me. Not working. I don't have anything to file today. The piece ran this morning, the contract news broke 2 hours ago through the official channels, and my afternoon is technically free for the first time in 3 months. I came here because when I don't know what to do with myself, this is where I go. The press box at the arena, the low lights, the ice below. The place that has been mine since before I knew I needed it. I hear the door. I don't turn around. He sits down in the seat next to me. The same seat as October. 2 months ago, 10 years ago, some version of both at once. We look at the ice. 4 years, he says. I know. I saw. Jonah is extremely pleased with himself. He should be, I say. He was right. A pause. Below us the ice is clean and unmarked, the Zamboni having finished its pass an hour ago before the afternoon skate that hasn't started yet. The piece, he says. What about it? You kept the book out of it. I look at the ice. I told you. Some things aren't for the piece. What are they for? I'm quiet for a moment. Then I reach into my bag and I take out my laptop. I open it. I navigate to the folder I keep for documents I haven't decided what to do with yet, the folder I've been adding to for 3 months without naming it, and I open the file. The one with no title. Not the second draft, that one became the profile. This is the third one, the one I started after Chicago and never finished and never closed, the one that has been sitting open at the back of my screen since the night he came to my apartment and kissed me and I sat at the table for an hour after he left, writing things I had no intention of filing anywhere. I turn the laptop toward him. Read it, I say. You've gotten good at that. He reads. This one is shorter than the profile. It doesn't have sections or structure. It's just notes, the kind you take when you're not taking notes for anything, observations that arrived at inconvenient times and needed somewhere to go. I watch the ice while he reads. I know what's in it. I wrote it in pieces, late at night, in the honest hours when I wasn't performing anything for anyone. I wrote, I saw him look at me from the ice after the overtime win and his expression was the one he only has when he thinks nobody is watching, and I knew what it was and I didn't write it down because it wasn't mine to use and also because if I wrote it down I'd have to decide what to do with it. I wrote, the thumb. On my back, in front of the cameras, the 1 centimeter that wasn't for the cameras. I felt it for 3 hours afterward. I wrote, he called me a good writer at 11:30 at night in an empty press box when there was nothing to gain from it. I have been told I'm good at my job by editors, by colleagues, by sources trying to get favorable placement. I have never been told it like that. Like it was a thing he'd noticed and was naming because it was true. I wrote, in Chicago he asked about my first game and then he didn't say a word when I told him about my father. Most people say something. They fill the space with condolence, with their own version of a similar story, with the gentle redirections of people who don't know what to do with someone else's grief and so make it briefly about themselves. He gave it the whole room. I didn't know I needed that until it happened. I wrote, at the very end, the night after the press conference, sitting at my kitchen table with the city dark outside, he stood at a podium and said it was real, in front of cameras, with no script, and I was in the back of the room and I pressed my recorder against my chest and I thought, this is what it feels like when someone chooses you on purpose. Not as a strategy. Not because the arrangement requires it. Just because they decided to. I wrote, I think I've been waiting to be chosen like that for a long time. I didn't know that until just now. He finishes reading. He looks at the ice. Then he looks at me. Everything you were too careful to say, he says. I look at the folder name I'd been building toward for 3 months, the one I finally typed at midnight the day the piece ran. Everything I was too careful to say. Yes, I say. Why show it to me now? I think about the honest answer. It's right here, which is where honest answers usually are once you stop trying to find a better one. Because it's yours, I say. It was always for you. I just had to finish the other thing first before I could admit that. He holds my look for a moment. Then he reaches over, the same way he reached for my laptop in my apartment the night everything shifted, and he closes it. The click is the same. Small and exact. Title it, he says. I did. I know. A pause. I mean file it. I look at him. It's not a piece. I know what it is. Then what do you mean, file it? He looks at me with the steady, unhurried quality I have been cataloging since October, the way he looks at things he's already decided about. I mean keep it, he says. Don't put it in the background folder. Don't close it without saving. Keep it somewhere you can find it. He pauses. When you're scared. When I do something that makes you think about your father or about arrangements or about the ways this could go badly. Another pause. Read it. Remember that you wrote it when you weren't trying to be careful. The press box is quiet. The arena below is empty and still. I look at the laptop. I look at him. Okay, I say. He nods. We sit for a moment in the press box that has been mine since October, since before I knew it was the place where everything was going to happen, and I think about the first time I was in an arena alone at night and what it felt like to discover that a loud world could have a still center. I found it at 16, in a press box in a city I barely knew, with a borrowed press pass and a notebook and my father's silence at my back. I'm finding it again now. Come on, I say. I close my bag. I stand up. I want to show you something. He stands. What? The ice, I say. At this hour, before the afternoon skate, when nobody's been on it yet. I look at the surface below us, unmarked and white, the work lights making it glow faintly. You always say you like to be on it before anyone else. I want to see why. He looks at me. Then he looks at the ice. Then he picks up his jacket. Come on then, he says. I follow him out of the press box and down the tunnel and through the door that opens onto the ice level, and we stand at the edge of it together, me in my boots, him in his sneakers, the ice in front of us cold and clean and completely still, and I understand, standing there, why he comes here first. Because it's the whole world, before it belongs to anyone. Because for 15 minutes before the game or the practice or the crowd or the cameras, it's just the surface itself, unwritten, waiting. He steps onto it first. I step on behind him. Chapter 24. The narrative becomes real. Michael's POV. The Frost win 4-2. I score one of the goals. The second, off a 2-on-1 with Jonah, a pass that I one-timed from the left circle, clean and hard into the top corner. The crowd does what it does and I tap Jonah's shin pads and skate back to the bench and I feel it the way I always feel a goal I've worked for, briefly, fully, and then it's already over and the next shift needs to happen. After the final buzzer I don't go to the tunnel scrum. I'm not sure what expression Jonah makes behind me when I pass the media room door and keep walking. I don't look back to check. I find the stairs to the press box. She's still writing. The arena is emptying below her, the crowd moving in streams toward the exits, the ice crew already out with the first equipment, the overhead lights cycling down to their post-game setting. She's in her usual spot, second row, laptop open, notebook beside it, working the paragraph she's been working since before the buzzer. I know this because she works the final paragraph of a game note before she files anything else and she does it the same way every time, head slightly tilted, pen in her left hand even when she's typing, the particular focused stillness that means the rest of the world has temporarily ceased to exist for her. I climb up. I sit beside her. She doesn't look up. I'm on deadline, she says. I know. I sit anyway. She types for another 40 seconds. Then she stops. She reads what she wrote. She changes one word. She reads it again. She puts her pen down. She looks at me. We have done this before, this exact configuration, her in this seat, me in the one beside it, the empty arena below, the clean ice after a game. But the first time I was carrying something I couldn't name yet and I left before she could answer me. I'm not leaving tonight. I didn't plan any of this, she says. I know. I had a plan. A very specific plan. 3 years of bylines, the profile piece, the career arc I'd been building since. She stops. Looks at her hands. I am terrible at not planning things. I plan everything. I have an index card system. I've seen the index card system. Then you understand how significant it is that my plan became, she gestures vaguely at the ice, at me, at the general situation. This. I look at her hands. I reach over and take one of them. Not staged. No cameras anywhere near us. No arrangement requiring it. Just my hand and hers and the empty arena and the clean ice and 67 home games behind us and everything still in front. Me too, I say. I'm learning. She looks at our hands. She looks at the ice. Then she looks at me with the expression she has when she's decided to say the thing instead of holding it, when she's put the professional composure down and is just being a person. Off the record, she says. Always. I'm glad it was the photo of us that went viral. She pauses. And not literally any other moment in my life. I look at her. Then I laugh. It comes out real, the unguarded kind, the kind that doesn't arrive on schedule. It fills the press box the way sound fills the empty arena, bigger than it should be, bouncing off the quiet. She's smiling. Not the managed smile, the practiced one, the professional version. The one she has at 2 in the morning when she finishes a paragraph she trusts. Me too, I say, when the laugh has settled. She squeezes my hand once. We sit for a while in the press box with the ice below and the lights coming down and the arena going quiet around us, and I think about the first time I came up here in October, uninvited, unexplained, sitting beside her because I wanted to and then leaving before it could mean anything. I'm still here. That's the whole difference. She files her notes at 11:40. I watch her do it, the final read-through, the small adjustments, the specific quality of her exhale when the piece goes from hers to the world's. 3 months and I can read every stage of that process now. Done, she says. I know. She closes her laptop. She starts packing her bag, the slow careful way she does it when she's not in a hurry anywhere. Elsa flies in Friday, she says. I know. You know I offered to pick her up. I know. You didn't have to look that surprised about it. I wasn't surprised, I say. I think about the right word. I was full. That's the nearest English has. She stops packing. She looks at me. The Swedish word, she says. The one you told me about. Saknad. What's the opposite? I look at the ice. Hittad, I say. What does it mean? The arena is very quiet. The last of the crowd sounds have faded. The maintenance crew is far down the ice, a yellow vest moving slowly under the work lights. Found, I say. She is still looking at me. Her expression does the thing it does, the fast negotiation, the door, and then it stops negotiating. It just opens. That one's better, she says. Yes, I say. It is. She zips her bag. She stands up. I stand up. We walk out of the press box together and down the corridor and out into the December night, and the cold hits us both at the same time and she pulls her coat tighter and I walk close enough that it blocks some of the wind and neither of us mentions it. The city is lit and dark in equal measure, the way cities are at midnight, and the arena is behind us and 4 years of contract are signed and the piece is in the world doing what true things do when they're put into it. She puts her hand in mine without asking. I close my fingers around it without answering. We walk. Epilogue. 6 months later, what actually happened? Ava and Michael. AVA. My desk at the new place is smaller than the one at Rinkside Report. I like it better. The new outlet is called Baseline and it has been in operation for 11 months and is run by 3 people who left larger publications because they wanted to write things that were true rather than things that were timely, and when I called them in February they didn't ask about the profile first. They asked about the piece I wanted to write next. I told them, the economics of NHL contract negotiations, and how the language of marketability is reshaping which players get long extensions and which ones get bought out, and what that means for the players who never learn to perform. They said, when can you start? I started the following Monday. I brought 2 colleagues from Rinkside. Tom Riley was not one of them, and he's fine with that. Derek Voss was let go in January. 3 senior departures in 60 days and a readership that had started following the bylines rather than the masthead. I didn't celebrate much. My desk faces a window that looks out at a parking structure, which is less romantic than my apartment window but better for concentration. I have a story wall here too. Smaller, I moved out the old bylines and kept only the current work, pieces I'm writing and pieces I'm building toward. The center card changes every month. Right now, it's not a card. It's a photograph. Jonah sent it to me in a text in December with no caption. I looked at it for a long time before I understood what I was looking at, because the 2 people in it don't look like people who are aware of being photographed. They look like people who have forgotten there's anyone else around. It's the parking lot outside the United Center in Chicago. After the away game. Not the staged walkout, that was earlier. That photo ran and got 12,000 likes and was good for the narrative. This is later, after the press had cleared, under the sodium light, and we're standing close enough that our coats are almost touching and I'm laughing at something he said. I don't remember what. I remember his voice, low and dry, the specific quality of a joke he didn't announce as a joke, and the laugh coming out before I could manage it. His face is turned toward me in the photo. His whole face. Jonah texted me the next day, I took it because I wanted you to see what he looks like when he's not on the ice. When you asked me last month whether he ever relaxed, that's what I meant. I had the photo printed. I pinned it in the center. I didn't know anyone was watching when it was taken. That's how I know it's real. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Michael. The tunnel is cold in the way it's always cold, the temperature drop from the corridor to the ice level immediate and specific, the kind of cold that tells your body to pay attention. I'm standing at the mouth of it waiting for the horn. Jonah is 3 feet to my left. The team is behind us in varying stages of the pre-game stillness we each have, Cam Peters moving, always moving, some players with eyes closed, some staring at the ice. I have my skates on and my helmet in my hand and I've been standing here for approximately 4 minutes. My phone is in my stall behind me. I haven't checked it. I don't need to. I know she's here. I know she's here because after 67 home games and 4 road trips and 2 visits from Lars and 1 very long night in a Chicago restaurant, I have learned, against every instinct I was built with, in the face of every wall I spent 6 years constructing, what it feels like to know exactly where someone is and not feel it as a threat. To know she's in the second row of the press box with her laptop and her notebook and her left-hand pen, filing her pre-game notes, and to carry that knowledge the way you carry something solid in a coat pocket, present, reliable, there when you reach for it. I spent a long time thinking presence was the problem. I was wrong about that. Elsa's flight gets in on Friday at 2:15. Ava is picking her up from the airport. I didn't ask her to. She offered 2 weeks ago, in the middle of a conversation about something else entirely, the way she offers things, sideways, matter of fact, not making it significant even when it is. She said, I have nothing on Friday afternoon, I'll get her. I said, you don't have to. She said, I know. I want to meet her properly. I had thought about this for 3 days before I understood what I was feeling about it. What I'm feeling about it is, I have a sister who flew home the morning after someone followed her from my arena, and who has not come back since, and in 3 days she is getting on a plane to Minneapolis and the person picking her up from the airport is someone who asked her permission before writing a single word about what happened. That is not nothing. That is, in fact, the whole thing. I think about October. The press box after the home game, the empty arena, the Zamboni finishing its last pass. I came up there because I wanted to be there and I had run out of reasons to pretend otherwise. I told her about Elsa. I said, I'm not telling you this because I trust you. I was wrong about that too. I was already trusting her. I just hadn't said so yet. And the thing I've learned, in the months since, in the mornings at her kitchen table and the nights at my window and the long ice sessions where I've had 60 solitary minutes to think about what it means to let a fortress become a room instead, is that trust moves faster than the words for it. It was already true before I had language for it. Same as most true things. I used to have a word for what I was feeling in October. Saknad. The ache of missing something before it's gone. The awareness of an ending before the ending arrives. I stood in the parking lot after practice and named it and thought, this is the word. This is the right one. I was right that it was close. I was wrong that it was the one I needed. Because Saknad is about loss. About a door closing. About standing in front of something good and watching the clock on it run. The clock is not running. She is in the press box right now, in the second row, and Elsa is getting on a plane in 2 days, and the contract is signed for 4 years, and the piece is in the world doing what the piece does, and I am standing at the mouth of a tunnel with my whole chest full of something that is not loss and is not ache and is not the grief of an ending. In Swedish there is a word for the opposite. Simpler. Older. A word that doesn't require any conditions. Hittad. Found. Not found as in located. Found as in, you were looking, or you didn't know you were looking, or you had given up on looking, and then something changed, and the looking was over. I have been on this ice for 15 years. I have been in this tunnel before 500 games. I have always known, standing here, exactly what the ice is, a surface I was built for, the place where I am most precisely myself. What I know now that I didn't know before October, the ice is still all of that. And after the final buzzer, in the second row of the press box, there's a woman who came here to write a story and stayed because she wanted to be here. Who sees me the same way she sees everything she writes about, clearly, without decoration, with the specific care of someone who understands that the truth of a thing is worth the work of finding it. She found it. She found me. I let her. Both of those things had to happen. The horn sounds. I skate out onto the ice, clean, white, waiting, mine, and for the first time in as long as I can remember, I am not defending anything. I am just here. And she is in the press box, and Elsa is getting on a plane, and the season is in front of me with all its games and its ice and its noise, and somewhere in the second row a woman I love is pressing her pen to a notebook page and starting to write. That is not Saknad. That is Hittad. That is everything. End. Puck Bunny is complete, 24 chapters plus prologue and epilogue. What a book. From a viral parking lot photo to Hittad. It's been a privilege to write every word of it alongside you. Whenever you're ready to compile the full manuscript into a single volume, say the word. What are the profitable genres, Amazon? Search intent 14 backend ranking keyword. For the above book which customers will type when they're searching on Amazon, no repetition in order to abide by Amazon guidelines. Show more. February 23rd. Puck Bunny, Amazon KDP strategy. Profitable genres, categories to select. Primary, romance, sports. Secondary, romance, contemporary. Tertiary, literature and fiction, women's fiction, contemporary women. 14 backend ranking keywords. No word repeated across all 14 phrases, structured for Amazon's search algorithm. Fake dating hockey player romance. Sports celebrity slow burn novel. Grumpy sunshine athlete journalist. Forced proximity contemporary fiction. Brooding hero emotional walls love. Forbidden workplace relationship book. Enemies to lovers winter setting. Angsty redemption arc new adult. Swedish alpha male second chances. Media scandal fake couple story. Press box arena steamy paperback. Emotionally unavailable man changed woman. Contract extension secret arrangement fiction. Wattpad style viral photo trope. Quick notes. Each phrase targets a different buyer intent, trope seekers, mood readers, subgenre browsers, and algorithm triggered also bots. No word appears twice across all 14, keeping you fully compliant with Amazon's no repetition guideline. For your book description, lead with the tropes, fake dating, grumpy/sunshine, forced proximity, slow burn. Those are the 4 highest converting hooks for this subgenre right now. Give me 250 words intriguing. Amazon SEO, search intent. And suspenseful and suitable. Synopsis ending with a question. From the above story. Author's note. Dear reader. Thank you for spending time with Ava and Michael. Puck Bunny began as a story about 2 people trapped in an arrangement neither of them fully controlled, and the terrifying moment when the performance becomes real, when the thing you agreed to pretend starts costing you something you didn't budget for. Ava's precision and Michael's silence were never opposite forces, they were 2 people who had each learned to survive by controlling exactly how much of themselves they showed the world. If this story stayed with you, if the space between what's staged and what's real felt like it mattered, I would be so grateful if you left a review. Reviews are how independent authors find new readers, and every single one matters more than you know. With gratitude. Arden Blackwell. Acknowledgements. Some books are built on an arrangement. This one broke its own terms. To the readers who believed in a journalist who refused to write the easy story and a defenseman who learned that letting someone in isn't the same as letting your guard down, thank you. You are the reason Ava and Michael's story exists beyond the page. And to every person who has sat in an empty arena after everyone else has left, watching the Zamboni smooth everything over. Sometimes the quiet is where you find it. About the author. Arden Blackwell writes dark romance with sharp edges, complicated men, and characters who refuse to look away. A lifelong devotee of stories where love is neither safe nor simple, Arden Blackwell believes the best fiction lives in the space between what people say and what they mean. Puck Bunny is the 10th novel in the Dark Eye series. When not writing, Arden can be found watching hockey with unnecessary emotional investment, keeping notes no one asked for, and sitting in empty press boxes long after everyone else has gone.